I will now reconvene this regular meeting. Can we please have translation services?
Thank you. SFU is offering interpretation services in Spanish and Cantonese. If you need interpretation, please dial the following phone number. After dialing, please introduce the PIN number. This message will be repeated in Spanish and Cantonese. Buenas tardes. El Distrito Escolar Unificado de San Francisco ofrece servicios de interpretación en el idioma español. Si necesita interpretación por medio de Google Meet, por favor marque el siguiente número telefónico, seguido de la clave de acceso. 1-319-382-9676. Por favor, introduzca la clave 665-996-976, seguido de la tecla numeral. Gracias. Cantonese interpreter, please. Thank you.
Thank you. 三藩市聯合校區咧，為今晚嘅教育委員會會議咧提供呢個廣東話嘅傳譯服務嘅。如果你係需要呢個傳譯服務嘅話，請撥打熒屏上嘅電話號碼係1-484-854-3328，然之後輸入代碼係721-609-895井號。多謝 ，Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we are now voting, reconvening into open session from closed session. We are voting on expulsion matters. I move approval of the stipulated expulsion agreement for one high school student, matter number 2023-2024-21. For the remainder of the spring 2024 semester. During the expulsion period, the student will attend Civic Center. Can I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, Mr. Steele?
Thank you. Commissioner Bogus,
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher,
Yes.
Commissioner Lamb,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiseman Ward,
Yes.
Vice President Alexander,
Yes.
President Matomedy. 7 ayes.
I move approval of the stipulated expulsion agreement for one high school student, matter number 2023-2024, number 22 for one calendar year from the date of approval of the expulsion, commencing the day immediately following the expulsion order. Student will attend Civic Center during the spring 2024 semester, suspended expulsion status for the remainder of the calendar year expulsion period, beginning at the start of the fall 2024 semester and into the spring 2025 semester. Can I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, Mr. Steele?
Thank you. Commissioner Bogus,
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher,
Yes.
Commissioner Lamb,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez.
Yes.
Commissioner Wiseman Ward,
Yes.
Vice President Alexander,
Yes.
President Matomedy.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
7 ayes.
I move approval of the stipulated expulsion agreement for one middle school student, matter number 2023-2024 23 for the remainder of the spring 2024 semester through June 4th, 2024, suspended expulsion status for the fall 2024 semester. Can I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, Mr. Steele?
Thank you. Commissioner Bogus,
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher,
Yes.
Commissioner Lamb,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiseman Ward,
Yes.
Vice President Alexander,
Yes.
President Matomedy.
Yes.
7 ayes.
I move approval of the stipulated expulsion agreement for one high school student, matter number 2023-2024 number 24 for one calendar year from the date of approval from the expulsion commencing the day immediately following the expulsion order. Student will attend Civic Center during expulsion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, Mr. Steele?
Commissioner Bogus,
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher,
Yes.
Commissioner Lamb,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez.
Yes.
Commissioner Wiseman Ward,
Yes.
Vice President Alexander,
Yes.
President Matomedy.
Yes.
7 ayes.
I move approval of the stipulated expulsion agreement for one middle school student, matter number 2023-2024 number 25 for the remainder of the current spring 2024 semester and the following 2024 semester. Can I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, Mr. Steele?
Commissioner Bogus,
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher,
Yes.
Commissioner Lamb,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiseman Ward,
Yes.
Vice President Alexander,
Yes.
President Matomedy.
Yes.
7 ayes.
I move approval of the stipulated expulsion agreement for one high school student, matter number 2023-2024 number 26 for 1 calendar year from the date of approval of the expulsion, suspended expulsion status for the spring 2024 semester and fall 2024 semester. Can I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, Mr. Steele.
Commissioner Bogus,
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher,
Yes.
Commissioner Lamb,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiseman Ward,
Yes.
Vice President Alexander.
Yes.
President Matomedy,
Yes.
7-0.
Okay, report from closed session in the matter of student MM versus SFUSD OAH case number 2023-120251. The board by a vote of 7 ayes gives the authority of the district to pay up to the stipulated amount. In the matter of student TK versus SFUSD OAH case number 2023-040687. The board by a vote of 7 ayes gives the authority of the district to pay up to the stipulated amount. In the matter of student ET versus SFUSD OAH case number 2023-110145. The board by a vote of 7 ayes gives the authority of the district to pay up to the stipulated amount. In the matter of student AT versus SFUSD OAH case number 2023-110153. The board by a vote of 7 ayes gives the authority of the district to pay up to the stipulated amount. In 3 matters of public employee discipline, dismissal, or release, the board by a vote of 7 ayes approved a resolution of intent to dismiss certificated employees. Oof, okay. Moving on to the regular agenda. We are now moving into opening items. And I'm going to jump right into the approval of board minutes. Is there a motion and a second on the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Any corrections?
I'm sorry. Deputy Dr. Wayne, there are none.
Roll call, Mr. Steele.
All right. Student Delegate Simpson. Student Delegate Toe.
Here.
Commissioner Alexander. I'm sorry, Commissioner Bogus,
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher,
Yes.
Commissioner Lamb,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiseman Ward, Vice President Alexander,
Yes.
President Matomedy,
Yes.
6 ayes.
All right, protocol for public comment. Just 1 minute while we get this sorted out. Hold on just a moment.
You can start with the protocol.
All right. Just want to say thank you to all who are here for SFUSD's business meeting. We intend to conduct our meetings effectively and in view of the public, which means they should be held at a reasonable and predictable hours. In order to do so, we will begin board business no later than 8 p.m., meaning the board will begin its discussion and decision-making process on agenda items. In addition, our student delegates are only able to join us until 9 p.m. It is a loss for decision-making and a diminishment of their voice and those they are elected to represent if they are not able to participate in discussion. I also want to remind everyone that we have updated our board policies over a year ago. Since then, our draft agendas for regularly scheduled meetings and our items are now published on our SFUSD website 12 days prior to the meeting date, with our final agenda posted 72 hours in advance. This enables
Another
both you, the
CPR, right?
public, and board
I'm
members.
so sorry. This is
Oh.
the interpreter.
You know what? I'm sorry. I'm going to slow down.
Thank you very much. I highly appreciate it.
I am so sorry.
No
Apologies.
worries. Thank you.
Yes, I will slow down. This enables you, the public, and board members to have more time to review and provide feedback prior to our board meetings. Previously, our regular agendas had not been shared with board members or the public until final posting 72 hours before our meetings. Over a year ago, we began publishing a commissioner question and answers document. This document includes the questions that we as commissioners have asked district leadership, and just as important, the district's responses to those questions. Because we think transparency is paramount and important to our building and restoring of trust with the community, those questions and answers are now always posted with our final agenda. For example, tonight it can be viewed as item D3.
Right.
So tonight and going forward, we will be prioritizing comments on agenda items at the beginning of our meetings. After that, I will call for non-agenda items. If we will reserve time after board business is completed for additional non-agenda items to be heard. Otherwise, unless otherwise noted or announced, all speakers will receive 1 minute to speak. We have clocks visible to help you time and pace yourself, and you will hear a beep when the time ends. I ask that you adhere to both your time, both out of respect for others' time and to allow for as many speakers to be heard in the time allotted. I encourage speakers who are speaking on the same topic to collaborate and combine their comments so that the board can hear all viewpoints during their allotted time. In order to hear as many viewpoints as possible and avoid reputation, please feel free to raise your hand if you agree with a speaker. We will see and we will understand that you agree. Please also know that the board accepts written public comments via email at the board office at sfusd.edu. So it's board office at sfusd.edu. The board and district leadership emails are also posted on our website. At this time, all speaker cards for public comment must be submitted. I do want to appreciate all of you who are here in this room and participating by other means and recognize the time you are taking to engage and observe the work of this board and staff. I also recognize that this board does not just represent those in this room or online. We represent many community members that are not able to participate in this venue, but are likewise invested and affected by actions this board takes. I will now be reviewing the number of anticipated speakers and will provide a timeline in just a minute. Okay, we started a little bit late, so we will commence with 30 minutes of in-person agenda and 30 minutes online agenda. Oh, sorry.
30 minutes.
Oh, 30%. Okay, so we will be doing 30. Okay. We will do 30 minutes of in-person agenda items, followed by 15 minutes of online agenda items, and then we will move to non-agenda items in person. 30 minutes in-person agenda, 15 minutes online agenda, then return to in-person for non-agenda items. All to be closed out at 8:15. And then at the close of the business meeting, once we finish our agenda items and discussion and actions, we will reopen for those who would like to speak on non-agenda items at that time. Okay.
Great, we're gonna go ahead and get started. So I'm gonna call 5 people up at a time, so please come line up in that order. You'll have 1 minute each, and please finish at 1 minute. We're gonna have to cut you off and keep it moving, because you see, we do have a lot of people. I'm gonna call the one student that I know is here for sure, Asante McAllister. You can come line up, please. Yeah. Second, I got Nico Braymon. Diane Gray. John Henry. Just, yeah, hold on. Sienna Dunn and Sean Foster. Please come line up at the podium. Whenever you're ready, young man. We're getting started. President, we're getting started.
Hello, everyone. My name is Asante McAllister. I attend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Middle School, and I believe there should be a policy change in the way students are allowed to apply to Lowell and Soda High School. I live in Oakland, California. That's where I've lived most of my life, all of my life. I've been going to school in SFUSD since the 6th grade, 3 years. And I believe that I should at least have a chance to apply to Soda and Lowell without being denied. Both of my parents work in SFUSD. My dad is a para educator and my mother is a teacher at my school. And we come to San Francisco and we support SFUSD every day. So I believe I should at least have a chance to apply to Lowell and Soda. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name's Nico Bermond. I am a director of the team program after school at Collective Impact. I'm here to talk about Ali. I've been working with Ali since 2016 when they first started. And, one thing I will say is Ali is doing the work that needs to be done, right? It's a movement, a monumental movement during a crisis in our public school system, right? And it's very extremely necessary to keep that program and initiative thriving, right? And so we're doing the work in the community, in the schools, partnerships are happening and students' lives are changing. Let's keep those students' lives in our hearts, in our minds. Let's make sure that the work is still being done. And let's make sure that our school board is making sure that they can do everything that they can to keep Ali alive and well. Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Superintendent Wayne and Board Commissioners. My name is Diane Gray, and I am the Director of Education for Young Community Developers, the co-founder of 100% College Prep, and Executive Board Member of the San Francisco Alliance of Black School Educators. I am truly grateful for Ali and their team and all the important work that they do supporting African-American students and their families. 100% College Prep was at the table at the very beginning. We're blessed to be at the table at the very beginning of this initiative. We are equally impressed by the work of its director, Leticia Irving, building a great team to continue building bridges to success. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sienna Dunn. I am a parent leader with the APAC. I have been in collaboration with the Ali team. I feel that they are monumental in continuing the development and keeping the structure and the avenues in place for Black students to be successful in this district. Being a child of San Francisco and growing up in the communities in San Francisco and having the resources from Ali and from the APAC for Black families and Black students is extremely important. And I think that the district needs to do whatever they need to do to ensure that they are a continued part of this, the success that's needed for the district to be able to move forward. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sean Foster. I work with Kingmakers of Oakland and I support Ali. Ali's MCI course is providing a culturally relevant safe space in the school day where kings and queens can engage in rigorous, culturally relevant coursework that connects students to their peers, builds their academic and historical self-esteem, and gives them strategies to achieve in a world that has many challenges. If it's true that our students are our clients, and this board, as well as this institution, exists to serve them and equip them with the tools they need to transform into the beautiful and productive people we know they will become. Are we listening to them in what they really want and have expressed receiving great value in or are we pursuing our own agendas? Without their voice, this program is truly revolutionary. Go to class and see for yourself. The question I want to ask the board is, are we investing in a moment or a movement? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm calling the next group. Ursula Dyer, I believe we have a student Ursula. You can come up to the podium, please. Greg Espy, Reverend Amos Brown, Melissa Jen, Jessica Middleton. Please come line up at the podium. Have 1 minute each.
I like to I like special education because it helps my brother Asher a lot. I don't need special education like my brother, but I am grateful to have it because it lets my teacher teach me and it helps kids learn. My name is Ursula Dyer and I am in 2nd grade.
My name is Gregory Espy. I am a facilitator at Martin Luther King Junior Middle School, and I am here to represent the Ali program. First and foremost, I just like to say the Ali program is a staple to this city. San Francisco, as we know, is unique and diverse, and we are leaders and groundbreakers on providing new avenues and new ways for people. The Ali program is monumental, as it already has been mentioned. It is life-changing. It is character developing. It is a force in a world of darkness. And without the Ali program, we wouldn't have such a people that we have here today. San Francisco has already produced great leaders, as we see, as Letitia Urban and Director Bogus. And if we continue to have the programs that we have with Ali, we would not only continue to see directors like we have now and mayors like London Breed, but who knows, out of San Francisco, out of this Ali program, we may see the next president of the United States come through here. I believe in this. I stand firm on this. I hope that you will stand firm with us. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Melissa Ju, and I'm the principal of Ulloa Elementary. In the last 2 years, Ulloa has been doing a lot of intentional work around deepening the sense of belonging for all of our stakeholders, students, families, and staff. This important work has not been done in isolation, but through working together as a community with great partners and supporters. In our effort to increase the sense of belonging and community for our BSU families, we reached out to the Black families in the neighboring schools. Ulloa, in partnership with APAC, has hosted 2 Sunset family meetups, and we plan to hold more. We are also thankful for the continued support from Ali. Last night, KPIX showed a feature they did on our BSU facilitator and parent, Al Khalid McCree, and highlighted the work he has done with our BSU. We look forward to continuing our school's work in diversity, equity, and inclusion with the support from APAC and Ali. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, board. My name is Jessica Middleton, and I want to be here to support Ali and reinforce the services they provide and continue to fund them. My son is a 7th grade biracial student at Presidio Middle School, and this was the first year that I was aware of Mastering Cultural Identity course, and I'm so happy and thrilled with this elective as it provides a space for my son to learn with other Black and Brown students and about how to respond and react based on his skin color. This class had focused on the struggles and achievements of African-American history. This is one of his favorite classes where he is able to be himself, engage, and participate in teamwork. I'm in favor of keeping this program going citywide across San Francisco Unified School District. And I'm also here to talk about the 8th grade algebra. My son's placed 3rd in the American Math competition, so I say let's reinforce it for 8th graders. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the Board of Education,
I'm Amos Brown, president of the San Francisco branch of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. I rise this evening to say, Ali must live. Victor Hugo also said, love is action. And it is time that African Americans receive action consistently from this board. And we'll give an active participation in supporting other interest groups. What's good for the groups is good for the gander. Hang in there. Let's keep Ali alive. Ms. Irvin is doing an outstanding job. The work is impeccable. This dream team must stay alive. So at one time, we can say, we did it together and we made a difference in the lives of Black children in the school district.
Thank you. Okay, I'll call the next group. Chris Chapman, Zach Mano, Harry Jamerson, Tony Hunt Hines, and Nia of Kingmakers. Please come to the podium, 1 minute each.
All right. Greetings, directors and Superintendent Wayne. My name is Chris Chapman, and I am the founder and CEO of Kingmakers of Oakland. I was also the founding executive director of OUSD's African American Male Achievement, the first district in the country to initiate a department centering Black students while serving all students. I've been supporting the work of Ali since its inception and want to encourage the board and superintendent to continue to invest in Ali and the leadership of Ms. Letitia Irving and Mr. Bobby Poe. Now more than ever, we must center those students furthest from opportunity, and given the results of Stanford University's Tom Dees report on targeted universalism and the impact Ali and MCI is having on Black students, this work needs to be expanded citywide. MCI is critical to ensuring that our students improve their sense of belonging, cultural identity, self-efficacy, and collective responsibility, which are leading indicators of not only academic success, but improved life outcomes for our most vulnerable students. I ask for you to think about how you expand the work citywide to ensure all teachers and staff create the conditions, systems, structures, and culture for our Black students and families to thrive and experience academic success. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Zach Manuel, a proud member of Mega Black San Francisco and a concerned member of the community. And I firmly believe that our Black students cannot be left in the margins. Ali has done a fantastic job working with students, parents, and community partners to meet kids where they are and bridge the gap to academic success. But there's work to be done. We need to make sure that students are receiving rigorous grade level guidance. Instructional coherence is absolutely paramount to make sure our kids can understand the metrics that ultimately decide the opportunities available to them. How can we expect change if we aim below the bar? Our students need to be seen, heard, and felt in a sense of belonging that Ali protects, promotes, and pays forward in everything they do. Black and brown students, again, will not be left in the margins and will keep showing up to make sure of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Superintendent, Commissioners, student delegates, and citizens of the city. Thank you for your time. First off, happy Black History Month, everybody. There we go. My name is Harry Jamerson, a proud teacher in the Bayview. One sentiment I would like to express is please strongly consider the recommendations of those who are closest to the problem. Ali has done phenomenal work in the community, and these recommendations will help alleviate disparities that are often go unaddressed. Thank you for your time. Go Ali.
Good evening. My name is Nia. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the curriculum designer for the organization Kingmakers of Oakland, where we seek to improve the educational outcomes for Black boys in our schools. Our collaboration with Ali is absolutely critical in achieving our collective goal, one I am optimistic we all share in this room. I fully support the recommendations laid out in the 2022-2023 annual report on page 29, namely number 1, to expand culturally relevant curricula and instruction throughout the district to engage and see our youth in their fullness. I recognize education to be a reciprocal process, one that can occur most effectively when students are fully seen for who they are, have accurate knowledge of where they come from, affirm their belonging in our classrooms and rightful place in the world we are all co-creating. The work of Ali must continue to stay uplifted and supported by the district as the success, well-being, livelihood of our Black youth and our community at large all depends on it. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, Superintendent, Commissioners, and student delegates. I'm here in support of the African American Achievement and Leadership Initiative, AKA Ali. I am Tony Hines, the African American Parent Advisory Council parent leader. The Ali team trailblaze educational excellence for families with Black children. They show how to link school learning to home. Parents are the first teachers. Please help Letitia Irvin and her team stand in the gap to create positive learning environments throughout SFUSD. Please expand their program. Happy Black History Month. Laissez le bon temps rouler. Happy Mardi Gras. Let the good times roll.
Thank you. Call the next group. Please come up and line up at the podium. Mateen Abdul Kawai. Asif Fasanau, please excuse my mispronunciation of Fanau's last name. Julia Martin, Rory Abernathy, and Supriya Ray. You go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mateen Abdul Kawi. I'm the Chief Program Officer for Kingmakers of Oakland. Prior to that, I was a principal of Oakland High School. And during my time as a principal of Oakland High School, I partnered closely with the Office of African American Male Achievement, the same department that Sister Letitia runs here in San Francisco. If you look back at the time of my tenure at Oakland High, and while we partnered with the Office of African American Male Achievement, our graduation rates went up, our disciplinary actions went down, our school climate and culture went to a whole nother level. And all students, not just our Black boys, but all students benefited because we created a space that all students could be seen and heard. The work that Letitia and Bobby and their department is doing can help any school transform their school climate and culture to a place where all students can be successful. Please continue to support the work. Thank you.
Good evening, board. My name is Asipasion Finau, and I'm a parent of a SFUSD student and a member of the SFUSD Matua Advisory Council for the Pacific Islander community. Historically, we've seen our Black and brown communities left behind throughout history. I'm here to support and stand behind the mission and the work that Ali and APAC does to promote the success of our Black and brown communities, children and families, and by elevating them and putting effective practices and strategies and helping deconstruct systematic barriers. The collaborative work that Ali and APAC is critical to uplift and empower our Black and brown communities. Please continue supporting them. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Julia Martin, and I am the Special Education Ombudsperson for SFUSD, the CAC liaison to the Community Advisory Committee for Special Ed, the CAC, and a parent in this district. And I got to know Ali and APAC first as a parent through the APAC at our school site, but then I really got to know them as a CAC member, where APAC and Ali really led an incredible action and community effort to raise awareness around dyslexia. And their work and leadership literally changed lives of our children and of how school psychologists thought about literacy. It was phenomenal. And as a staff member, I've had the honor of getting to work with Ali. And I can't tell you all how lucky I am to work with you. The dedication that each and every, when they say each and every, that means that each and every one of them is on the phone calling students. They are so, so dedicated. So I'm in your debt. Thank you all. Mad respect. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
And CAC loves you. So they sent me.
Come on up.
Good evening, everyone. This is Supriya Ray. I wanted to talk briefly about two matters. First, quickly about math. I really would urge you to please keep the faith and keep the trust of the community by making sure that algebra in 8th grade is available to anyone who wants to take it. A plan to have it after 8th grade in the summer is not in 8th grade, and a plan to put it online is going to hurt the very communities who are already the most disadvantaged. Second thing I want to talk about is the resolution to move to a district-based model of elections, which is tremendously concerning to me. We are a model of diversity, and I don't see where you can better stand up for minority communities than to stand up against this change to district elections that would actually, if anything, impair minority voting rights. So I suggest we actually defend SFUSD values of student-centeredness, being united, social justice, diversity, being fearless. And I want to note, Mr. Rafferty just today on television said that Latinos and Asians are different from the rest of the electorate. He said that both of those communities care a lot more about education than the rest of the electorate. And I submit he is wrong. Thank you.
Hi, I'm a math teacher, so we're balancing the budget, and I'm gonna say you cannot make $1 out of 15 cents. So, for example, I'm also on PFCAC, and for everything that you add, for example, Algebra 1, which I am in favor of a D-track model, you have to subtract. So everybody in this room that is complaining about being cut, I have not seen a side-by-side, which I'll be requesting formally, of what is being cut to pay for Algebra 1 in this expedited manner when we are over $400 million in debt with the state of California. So I am concerned. They canceled last month's meeting. They're talking about doing this thing for students, but you're not talking about all these people in the room that are getting their programs cut to pay for something that serves a few number of students. So I am just wanting to hear from the board more details and transparency around what you are cutting to pay for an Algebra 1 program that we all support, but again, $1.15.
Okay, I'm calling the next group. Please come to the podium. Autumn Lujan, Maya R., Patrick Wolf, Jeff Lucas, Tyra Shu.
My name is Autumn Loyan. I'm here to talk about algebra. Algebra is going to bring revenue back to our district by bringing families back. We lose 1 in 7 at middle school. If they come back, they will bring their funding with them. But I want to talk about 10 years ago, this board voted to remove algebra from middle school. For the last decade, SF students have been watching as the bus to science and math careers passes them by. Their Bay Area peers are on that bus, and San Francisco's kids get to sit and watch as they're left behind. Some of them run like crazy to catch up to that bus, but they shouldn't have to. Tonight's algebra plan gets 1/3 of our kids on the bus to the careers they want in science and tech, but it leaves the other 2/3 waiting in the cold for at least 2 years. I admit that this plan is better than the current system. It is better to fail 2/3 of our kids than all of them. Just like if your surgeon is low on anesthetic, it's better to numb 1/3 of the incision than none at all. But is that what San Francisco's kids deserve? No. They deserve algebra every middle school without a 2-year delay. Pilot algebra at every middle school this fall.
Hi, my name's Maya. For a while, everyone took Algebra 1 in 8th. Back to school night 2013 at Roosevelt Middle, my son's Algebra 1 teacher told us it would be delayed to 9th. I thought this can't be true, and if we all got a 555 and explain why it's a really bad idea, it would all work out. If there are lessons to be learned from this, the minute somebody questions your data, engage. When you hear 40% failed 1 year and the very next 7% did, that's snake oil. Everyone should ask to see the raw data. After years of district stonewalling, I finally got the data. 4% failed. The last year Algebra 1 was an 8, not 40. Somebody likely made a decimal point error and nobody caught it. They later tried to blame an exit exam, no longer given, but even with an exam, claims can't be reproduced. Should not take public data requests, should not take lawsuits. Should not take someone wearing a metaphorical sandwich board standing at the corner screaming repent for 10 years. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jeff Lucas. 8th grade students are fully capable of successfully completing algebra. Prior to 2014, about half of the students in SFUSD completed 8th grade algebra successfully. That's not a small number, half. Current board policy prevents teaching of Algebra 1 in 8th grade.
This sets low expectations for our students. It drives families away from the district, and it creates a barrier that requires outside resources to overcome. The district should support and welcome Algebra 1 in 8th grade. Support the superintendent's requested action. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, Patrick Wolf. I'll try to speak briefly on two topics. First, on math. I agree with Ms. Abernathy. There's only so many minutes and only so many dollars, and a budget of time and money is a moral document. We have too few instructional minutes for math. Time not spent on math should be allocated for more math instruction. We also could do a much better job of reducing chronic absenteeism, which would actually make us all richer in terms of minutes spent in class. Regarding the lawsuit or the threat of a lawsuit to move to district elections, I'm sure you've all been deluged over the last week. President Matamati, I can't even imagine what the last week has been like for you. I'm not going to repeat the arguments that you all know. I just want to tell you something. San Francisco loves its public schools. San Francisco will not let a carpetbagger lawyer seeking money bully this district around. Do the right thing. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Taika Shu. I am a TSA on special assignment in multilingual pathways as a math specialist. And I taught for almost 15 years at Mission High School. Over 10 years ago, I came here under different circumstances. We advocated for detracking in San Francisco because at Mission High School, we successfully taught a diverse group of students how to do math at deep levels, including multilingual students, Black students, and Brown students. And now we're here with too much of an accelerated plan to bring back algebra in 8th grade. On one option, we have compression. Imagine being a teacher trying to fit 2 years of curriculum into 1 year. You get stressed out and you leave kids behind. There's no current plan for the district from the district's end to ensure that all students have access to a compression course, wherein there are multilingual students and students who have not been taught as well as they could have been in previous years of mathematics. Another option is to make it an elective. We know what happens when it's an elective. Well-resourced parents and families are allowed to take the course, and other students do not, thereby leaving them behind when they come to high school. So please reconsider how to roll this out to support the most needed students and to have a plan for multilingual students and Black and Brown students. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm calling the next group. Please come to the podium. Jaime Huling Delay, excuse me, or Jamie, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing. I have 2 cards for you. All right. Deldep Medea, Stephen Hill, John Tresvina, and Patrick Wolf. Patrick just spoke.
Good evening. My name's Jamie Huling DeLay. I'm the mother of a Dolores Huerta first grader and also an attorney with 15 years of litigation experience, most of which has been defending and suing governments. I'm here to say that this CVRA potential lawsuit is eminently winnable, and there's a reason that the foremost education and election lawyers in California are coming forward to tell SFUSD that they will offer their services pro bono to defend the district. The district should push back against this lawsuit because it doesn't represent the board's values. The board has recently refocused on outcomes for students, and the local experience in SF with redistricting shows that drawing these districts is going to dramatically distract the board and require a huge amount of time that is focused not on student outcomes. It's going to dilute minority votes. In SF, 7 out of 7 citywide elected officials are people of color. The CVRA lawsuit is winnable.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Del Medina, and I am co-president of Latinx Democratic Club. As the previous speaker and many speakers before me have been talking about resources, when we look at the CVRA threat letter, the reality is that we have to consider that none of us are minorities, number one. We are the majority. We are a part of this country, and we have a stake in it, including education. And so what does it look like to have the resources at hand? be looked at. And so it is, in my opinion, that you should fight back against this lawsuit and create a system that actually is equitable, not just in pieces of the current political climate in San Francisco, but overall, taking a look at the system overall, not just for today, not for tomorrow, but for the next 10 years. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm John Trezvania. I chaired the Voting Rights Act Compliance Committee for San Francisco in the 1980s, and in the 2000s, I was your appointee to the Elections Commission. The district, parents, and community have a lot of challenges, but how we elect you is not one of them. This board has been the most diverse governing body in San Francisco for decades, since we first had elections of school board members in 1972. In the last 20 years, 2/3 of members of the board have been African American, Latino, or Asian American. The supervisors have been a majority, supervisors elected by a district have been a majority white. We don't need a Walnut Creek lawyer misusing the Voting Rights Act to make us less diverse. People have fought for the right to vote and representation for decades. We ask you to stand up for it now. The right to vote is worth more than $40,000 in attorney fees for this out-of-town lawyer. This lawsuit will harm, not help. And even a settlement will distract from all the challenges we have, all of us ahead of us. Tell Mr. Rafferty no. Thank you.
Good evening, commissioners. My name's Stephen Hill, and you have my sympathies for the difficult decision that's been dropped into the middle of your laps. You also have more options than you perhaps realize. The California Voting Rights Act jurisprudence has shifted dramatically since last August when the California Supreme Court issued its PICO decision. And at that point, it said it's no longer sufficient to simply show racially polarized voting. You have to now show vote dilution. And that's going to be very difficult to do in a city like San Francisco that has such a long history of the protected class having electoral success, including with the current board. Consequently, cities are starting to fight back against this kind of egregious use of the CVRA. Burbank has halted its path to districts after holding public hearings and actually having the district lines drawn. The city of Albany across the bay has negotiated a compromise with a plaintiff attorney to use proportional ranked choice voting, and its first election, both seats were won by candidates from the protected class. So I hope you will consult with the expertise that you need to do this, and I have given you some proposals to go with your resolution if you want to try and change your resolution. Thank you.
All right, 3 more for this section. Wesley Baker, Geraldine y Catalina, please come to the podium. Geraldine y Catalina.
Buenas noches a todos los presentes. Mi nombre es Geraldine Mejía, soy migrante venezolana, familia de 4, mi esposo y mis 2 hijos y líder de FENACCION. Estamos en situación de calle y tenemos 4 meses de haber llegado a dormir en el shelter Buenavista. Las cosas no han cambiado desde la última vez que estuvimos aquí. Recuerde que les compartimos fotografías donde nuestros hijos quedan dormidos en las clases. No tienen el mismo rendimiento académico que un niño que tiene un hogar donde dormir y descansar. Miembro de la Junta Escolar y Superintendente. Mi hijo Jeremy estudia en la escuela John Muir. Sus estudiantes hoy necesitan el apoyo de ustedes. Jeremy está en representación esta noche de cientos de niños que están al igual que él y necesitamos de su apoyo. En lo que mi compañera les dirá a continuación. Y aquí están nuestros hijos, sus estudiantes.
Hi, good evening. My name is Geraldine. I'm from Venezuela. My family is 4 members.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es
Me, my husband, and my 2 kids. I also belong for Leaders of Actions. We're in a homeless situation. We reported this when we arrived. There has been no changes. We show you the pictures of our sons. They are not able to take their classes because they keep falling asleep during class times. So compared to the other students, they are not the same. So we need some support. Jeremy here is representing hundreds of other children that are in the same situation.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Carolina Sequera y mi hija Diana asiste a la High School Galileo. Como lo dijo Geraldine, nuestros hijos están pasando por momentos muy difíciles por no tener un hogar. Superintendente, nosotros seguimos esperando tener una reunión con usted y sabemos que usted tiene una agenda muy ocupada, pero hoy venimos a hacerle una invitación a usted y a la Junta Escolar. Los detalles de esta reunión comunitaria, que será dentro de nuestros valores de fe y moral, están dentro de la carta. Los estudiantes necesitan que sus escuelas y representantes estén presentes, necesitan que la Junta Escolar esté con ellos y sus familias. Hoy estamos aquí en representación de cientos de familias que estamos solo llegando a dormir a Los Chester por más de 4 meses. Nuestros hijos, que son sus estudiantes, necesitan el distrito escolar de San Francisco esté de pie y hombro con ellos. Deseamos que hagan tiempo para asistir a este evento. Muchas gracias.
Hi, my name is Carolina, and I have a daughter that goes to Galileo High School. My kids are also going through a very difficult time. We're also in a homeless situation. Superintendent, we asked for a meeting with you and the rest of your staff. We have included an agenda with some of the timing. I know that you have a very busy agenda as well. In the letter that with the invitation for this meeting, you will see that our values, faith, and morals are reflected. May the school and all of the representatives of each and every one of those schools can have a meeting with their families. All of us together, we can work. We're representing hundreds of families. We don't have a place to sleep, and this has been going on for more than 4 months. Our children need SFSUSD for their support and assistance in the least time possible. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Wes Baker. I'm the Solutions Executive for Scholastic Northern California, especially in its sense of literacy and equity. I'm here to advocate for Ali for a few reasons, specifically and most importantly, the MCI program. The MCI's program's data with regard to attendance and Lexile level scores improving is right on par with what we see nationally at Scholastic. I want to just cite a couple of studies that we've seen in the past couple of years. 2016, the National Bureau of Economic Research found that freshmen at risk of dropping out, they had a grade point average increase of at least 1 point, and attendance rose by 21% when they were enrolled in an ethnic studies course. That's the power of giving students that sort of representation and the learning objectives that they have every single day. And I just want to congratulate everyone on the Ali team for that work and congratulate the board and definitely encourage you to keep that program going. Thank you.
Okay, and so now we will move to 15 minutes of agenda items online at this time.
At this time, we will take public comment from our virtual participants. Each speaker will have 1 minute. Can we please have that repeated in Spanish and Chinese?
En este momento vamos a aceptar comentarios en línea para aquellas personas que quieran hacer puntos relacionados con la agenda. Cada persona tendrá derecho a 1 minuto. Muchas gracias. Cantonese.
大家好，而家係網上嘅公眾發表意見時段，而家係每人1分鐘嘅時間。如果你需要發言嘅話，麻煩你舉手，多謝你。
Thank you. Stephen?
Yes, my name is Steve Chesson. I'm president of Californians for Electoral Reform. I'm commenting on item G2. Before your closed session today, I mentioned how Albany settled its CVRA situation without districts. I also mentioned the city of Burbank. Burbank is receiving legal advice from Marguerite Leone of Nielsen Merksimer. She got the CVRA lawsuit against Burbank dismissed. Kevin Shankman, who usually takes the plaintiff's side in these situations, has offered to defend you for free should Mr. Rafferty actually sue. I urge you to take him up on his offer. I'd name other jurisdictions that have successfully resisted CVRA threat letters, but I don't want to name them. I don't want them to become targets for Mr. Rafferty. I'll provide them in confidence to your attorney if he would contact me. You should consider negotiating a citywide proportional solution with Mr. Rafferty. That would be a lot less expensive than hiring a demographer and holding the public hearings required for adopting districts. And if he refuses, you should ask the Board of Supervisors to put a charter amendment on the November ballot that would allow you to switch to a proportional method. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Aaron? Aaron? Dorothy?
Good afternoon, good evening. I have been an APAC parent for many years, and the support and tools that they give parents and families to advocate for their children is irreplaceable. The programs that Ali offers students are great learning opportunities. My son was fortunate enough to have the Black Star Rising session twice, and he learned awesome things and amazing things. And I wish that it would be around in a few years for my daughter. I absolutely support Ali Lee and MCI and hope.
Yes, sorry, we did designate a certain amount of time to.
Is there going to be more later?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Caller ending in 5100.
Good afternoon. Good evening. Good evening. My name is Cheryl Thornton, and I'm with the San Francisco branch of the NAACP. I'm the youth advisor, and I'm in support of not cutting the Ali program. Everybody needs inclusiveness, especially Black students. They are so vulnerable at this time, so they definitely need the support of this program. I'm also against district elections for the school board. That just marginalizes more of the disenfranchised communities in San Francisco. And as far as algebra in middle school, I don't think that should be something that's implemented at this time. It should be studied more, because I think what it's going to cause is a bigger achievement gap for the students who are left behind. So thank you.
Thank you. Tom?
Hi, my name is Tom Anderson. I'm a special education teacher at Dolores Huerta. I'm over my case limit by a few students. I'm going to keep getting more and more students. I'm also on the special education reopener for bargaining. The district was supposed to bargain with us yesterday, but they said they couldn't make it. We can't meet next Monday because it's a holiday. So the soonest would be the 26th. The district says special education is a priority, but they, throughout bargaining and throughout now, they have not made it that way. I'm speaking now, so hopefully other parents can push the district, because I also am a parent in the district, but the district mainly listens to parents and not the educators who are saying we are drowning here, we are burnt out. Please walk the walk, because you're doing that for math, but you're not doing it for educators in special education. And all teachers help students in special education, but I think that the algebra, because you're afraid of certain parents or certain values, you're taking that on and not special education. I don't know why that is the case. Thank you.
Thank you.
Real quickly, Lisa, I just want to remind the public, this section is for agenda items. You will have time to speak on non-agenda items later. So please don't raise your hand right now if you're here to speak to a non-agenda item. We're only speaking to agenda items.
Can we please have that repeated in Spanish and Chinese? We are speaking to agenda items only. Please lower your hand if you're wanting to give public comment on a non-agenda item.
Buenas tardes. En este momento solamente estamos recibiendo los comentarios relacionados con la agenda. Si usted tiene un comentario que no está relacionado con la agenda, por favor, no suba la mano.
大家好，而家呢個時段係發表意見，係就我哋而家呢一個議程嘅項目去發表意見嘅。與議程無關嘅項目咧，我哋會一陣留返時間俾大家發表意見嘅。 多謝你。如果係你個發言係同議程項目無關嘅咧，麻煩你將個手放翻落嚟。Thank you。
Thank you. Vanessa?
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Vanessa Marrero, and I am the Executive Director for Parents of Public Schools San Francisco. I'm going to get to the point. The Ali program institutes a rigorous, responsive, and relatable initiative across certain schools in the district, and I recommend that you actually expand this special program. Definitely do not consolidate any of its services. If you need additional funds, please look at federal dollars and look at state dollars that can support you so that we can continue to serve our children who have been probably the most underserved. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris?
Good evening. My name is Chris Drudonic, and I'm commenting on the elections issue G2. This month, I'm finishing 10 years of service as the Board of Supervisors appointee to the Elections Commission. I've also been an advocate for better election systems for over 20 years. Given the magnitude of this issue, I'm concerned that you're rushing the decision and without consulting with knowledgeable experts. To give one example, none of the materials in the agenda packet for this item, neither the slide presentation nor the draft resolution, mention the possibility of proportional ranked choice voting. The California Supreme Court recently clarified that proportional systems like PRCV can also be used to resolve California Voting Rights Act claims. These systems are designed for cities like San Francisco, where our diversity is spread throughout the city. Many minority communities aren't concentrated in high enough numbers in any one area to benefit from districts. Districts would just divide these communities further. I urge you to consider these other options and to consult with experts before proceeding down the road towards districts. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Marshall?
Thank you, young sister. Good evening to President Matomedy, Board Commissioner, Superintendent Wayne, student delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I join President of our NAACP, Reverend Dr. Amos C. Brown, and our members in the continued support of Ali and the APAC. They are doing an excellent, amazing, phenomenal work with our students and families across the district. Yes, you heard tonight. Whenever I see a parking lot at night full of cars for a meeting, a parent meeting, I know it's an APAC meeting, and those meetings are amazing. When they started off at Harris some years ago, I would go downstairs and see if they needed anything. They needed nothing. They were so resourceful. I went up back to my office and went back to work. Now that I'm retired, I still see them doing amazing work, and it's heartfelt. I commend Ms. Letitia Irving and her amazing staff for their vision and work. I'm requesting that you implement all 5 recommendations on page 29 and not cut one penny, starting with the
Thank you, Ms.
academics and
Marshall.
the
Ms. your
4 other programs.
Thank
you so much.
Carol?
Hi, my name is Carol Kosovar, and I want to talk to 2 items. The first one is Algebra 1 in the 8th grade. And I want to congratulate and say thank you to Superintendent Wayne and all the staff for working to bring finally Algebra back into the 8th grade in San Francisco Unified School District. It's been inequitable where our kids who are high performing haven't had the opportunity to reach their potential. The second issue I want to talk about is this law school case about voting. And essentially, don't take a position tonight. Don't get pushed into the corner. Don't get pushed because there's a threat of a lot of money, because there are lots of options right now that you didn't know when this first came up. And so I'd urge you to take your time, especially when we have a lawsuit.
Thank you, Carol. That is your time. Thank you. Mark? Mark?
Yes. So appreciate the time here. So I'm a parent of a third grader at Uloa Elementary. This is going to be two parts. We'll stay within 1 minute. But I wanted to appreciate the Ali team for their support over the years. We've been able to have a Black student union at Uloa for the last couple of years. And that's because of the resources and guidance that it provided. And just like Principal Ju talked about the intentional work being done, we're taking things to the next level with an equity design team within the Uloa community to continue to bridge the gap between the families of different backgrounds and the school district. So I would like to say, please continue to support that team. And now I'm going to transition to my daughter, who will say a few words.
Hi, my name is Marissa, and I go to the school Uloa Elementary. I'm in third grade, and I am a part of the Black Student Union. My older sister, Maya, who was in 8th grade, was also part of the Black Student Union when she was at Uloa. I'm not sure if you know, but the BSU was on Channel 5's news yesterday for Black History Month. Mr. L teaches us how to be proud of who we are and that we can make a difference. Thank you, APAC, for supporting the BSU at Uloa. This year, I will be on the African American Honor Roll. This is my first time being on the Honor Roll. I am excited because it's also at the Chase Center. Thank you, APAC. I'll leave it.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Mary?
Hi, good evening. That's my family right there. And I wear several hats in the district. I'm a school social worker, but I'm always a parent first. Part of the APAC leadership team and a parent of the BSU at Uloa Elementary School. I wish we could stand in person before you this evening, but have to participate due to COVID. Through my times at board meetings, I have come to you with tears, heartache, frustration, especially about the state of anti-Blackness in our district and what happened at Uloa several years ago. Today, I'm glad to share a new story and heartfelt gratitude for the work that has been done to repair the harm and to rebuild at Uloa. I am grateful for the Uloa admin who are leading the way and are here tonight, and for the Uloa community to work through this painful experience and move towards solidarity, inclusion, and to create a sense of belonging for all students. None of this would have happened without Ali, APAC, and the NAACP for standing with us and for us. And to pivot, I want to uplift and strongly encourage the board to follow through with resolutions passed, especially the Safe and Support Resolution and the Black Studies Resolution, which are resolutions that directly impact Black students. I'm requesting that there's accountability.
Thank you, Mary. That is your time. Thank you. Hope?
Thank you. I want to just uplift again Ali and just bring to attention the need. You've heard the beautiful babies that have spoke, and that's the confidence that has been invested in our children. This is really needed for you to really take into account the recommendations that they're putting forth, but also put in place, as Mary was saying, the accountability to sit there and make this stuff happen. Do not cut, but really look at expanding, because the more that you invest in each and every student, the more that you will really bring the value. I think about, as an alumni SFUSD, I wish that I had this kind of support, but I'm grateful that my children are able to have the benefits of programs that Ali and APAC bring. The first Black book that my child held was in kindergarten, and that sparked her. The support that I've gotten in navigating dyslexia and understanding how to navigate the SFUSD as an employee and as a parent has come through the work and the training of Ali and APAC. It is necessary for us to expand this work.
I'm so sorry to have to interrupt you. Thank you, Hope. That is your time. Marai?
Hi, my name is Mariah Mills. And I am a alumni of SFUSD. I just first want to say that courage again to the babies. My mother who previously spoke. I just want to highlight how much Ali has just laid a lot of fundamental groundwork, especially being a Black kid in SFUSD, and now raising a Black male just in the school district alone. Ali has given the basis of allowing not just me to have opportunity, but those around me to have opportunity, which is why it's so crucial that you would allow Ali to keep the funding, keep the resources, keep encouraging these babies, and keep making sure that they're doing exactly what they need to do. They're uplifting and they're filling in the spots that the school district isn't. And so I'm here to say that both Ali and APAC working together, but mainly making sure that you guys prioritize our babies, because you're not.
Thank you, Marai. I'm so sorry to have to cut you off. That is your time. Thank you. Rionda?
Good evening, board.
Rionda?
Sorry, I am Rionda Batiste and I am a very proud APAC parent leader. I am calling in tonight to express my full support for the Ali recommendations that will be put forth later tonight. I implore the board to actively listen with plans to fully implement the 5 recommendations with fidelity. It is my sincere hope that this is the year, will be the year that SFUSD can start the process to ensure that each and every African-American / Black student within SFUSD is well. Our babies deserve full access to the support and resources required to thrive within SFUSD. Just imagine how well our babies will perform when each and every adult views them as scholars and has high expectations for them. Thank you.
Thank you. President Matomedy, that does conclude the 15 minutes allowed agenda items.
Okay, we will now move to in-person non-agenda items and we will end at 8:15 because we did start the meeting 15 minutes late.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do we have that repeated in, oh no, we're in person, I'm sorry. Apologies. All right, I'm gonna call the first 5. Yane Garcia, Selvin and Rida Garcia, May Yu, Ramiro Geronimo, Crisbel Morales. Please come to the podium if you're here. You'll have 1 minute each.
Good evening, everyone. I'm voicing my concern in regards to few things that our school have encountered. And we find a bit concerning. For example, our school community has a lot of kids with some sort of speech impediments and have not received proper attention. For example, a speech evaluation and therapist that is fluent in Spanish and English and will give them the proper care they need. Another major concern for Guadalupe Elementary community is that there is a school bus that stop in front of our school and take our kids from the neighborhood to West Portal Elementary. These same kids come back in the afternoon and stay in our school program. I really don't find it fair that another school who is not in our district zone is getting more funds than Guadalupe. Then Guadalupe with our neighborhood children. To my understanding, all schools in San Francisco, in SFUSD
Thank
are
you.
under the same curriculum.
I'm sorry, that's your time. 1 minute.
Okay, thank you.
Next speaker can go ahead.
Muy buenas noches, mi nombre es Ramiro Jerónimo Aguilar, padre de Gabriel Jerónimo de la Escuela Guadalupe Elemental. Estamos aquí por una razón. El principio de año la escuela no contaba con una terapista de lenguaje Entonces, estamos aquí, bueno, yo estoy acá y como otros padres, queríamos, saber el plan de si el distrito tiene algún plan para que nuestros hijos puedan recuperar las terapias que no pudieron recibir el principio de año. Muchas gracias.
Hi, my name is Ramiro Jeronimo, and my child attends Guadalupe Elementary School. And we are concerned because we used to have a speech therapist, and we don't have it anymore. So I would like to know what is SFUSD is going to do, and what is their plan to get back a speech therapist so our children can start going and attending these therapies. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Gong Hei Pat Choi, because today is still 4th day of the Lunar New Year. So my name is May Yu. 我喺 Guadalupe 工作已經有18年啦。咁我有3個細蚊仔喺呢間學校畢業嘅。咁而家好成功，2個工程師，1個護士。咁我好感恩呢間學校。咁喺度我咧係懷住感恩個心態咧係。工作咧非常之認真，回饋呢間學校。咁10年前咧，因為Guadalupe高峰嘅時候咧，我哋唐人子弟咧有將近150個，但係差唔多開雙語班啦。而家呢10年嚟咧，由於有直升學校嘅出現咧，加上其他嘅因素，呢間學校大部分嘅唐人子弟咧轉咗去 Westboro。咁因為佢哋個課後有巴士嚟我哋間學校，即係變得咧。大部分嘅子弟咧係我哋啲唐人，咁所以對於我哋間學校非常之唔公平，係直接影響我哋嘅入學率㗎。咁我個人認為咧，校區喺呢方面咧一定要改善。喺度多謝晒大家 ，thank you。
Hi, I am Mei Yu. I work at Guadalupe Elementary School. I have 3 children that are graduated from this school. They are very successful. 2 are engineers, 1 is a nurse, and I'm very thankful for the school. I have a thankful heart working hard to give back to the school. 10 years ago at Guadalupe Elementary School, when we had most of our students of Chinese descent, almost 150 students, enough to almost start a bilingual pathway. But 10 years ago, because appearance of middle school feeder system plus other reasons, the majority of the Chinese students that would have been here has changed West Portal. And because they have the after school busing that brings them back to Guadalupe Elementary School, that has a direct effect on the school's Chinese population entering the school. I personally feel the school district is imperfect, and I think that it's time for hope the Board of Education can make the change to this. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I'm calling the next group. Please line up at the podium. Yanira Curry, Catherine Paruno, Roberto Guzman, Norvia Castro, and Mariela Ornelas.
Good evening, respectful members of the Board of Education. My name is Yanira Curry. I live in the Excelsior and Crockett Amazon neighborhood, and I am also a para-educator with the San Francisco Unified School District for the past 16 years. Everybody is familiar with the core values of the SFUSD. And to name a few: social justice, equity, unity, diversity. As we celebrate Black History Month, it's hard not to relate to the bus incident of 1955, where one person fought for desegregation and racial equality. For more than 20 years, we have had a yellow bus coming to the doors of Guadalupe to pick up a student from our neighborhood and bus them to another school in the west part of the city. As our school is impacted year after year with enrollment, the number of students on the bus increased year after year, creating an elite school for a particular racial group outside of our neighborhood.
Thank you.
Regardless of who is paying for the bus, this is an equity issue.
Thank you.
Because resources from an underserved community are allocated to an affluent one. By appealing to you, I trust that you will hear us and make the necessary changes. Thank you.
Next speaker.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Catherine.
Perdón.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Catherine. Tengo a mi hija en la escuela Guadalupe. Estoy aquí para pedirles que no recorten los recursos a nuestra escuela. Hay muchos estudiantes aprendices de inglés y es indispensable y necesario, ya que nuestros hijos e hijas reciben todo el apoyo necesario. Gracias.
Hello, my name is Catherine, and my daughter attends Guadalupe Elementary School. And I want to ask you not to cut any programs in our school. And there's a lot of students that they're English learners, and it's very important and needed to have all these resources for our children. Thank you.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Nolvia Castro. Estoy expresando mi preocupación acerca de nuestra escuela Guadalupe. Por ejemplo, tenemos niños y niñas con deficiencia en lenguaje, ya que ya tenemos pues más de 100 días de clase y todos estos niños no han sido evaluados. También un terapista que sea adecuado y que se ajuste a las necesidades de cada niño y niña. Otro detalle que quiero agregar es que a la escuela Guadalupe viene un bus escolar a recoger niños de nuestra comunidad para llevarlos a la escuela West Portal. Después estos mismos niños se quedan en los programas que nuestra escuela ofrece después de la escuela. Se me hace injusto que otra escuela esté teniendo más fondos que Guadalupe con niños de nuestro vecindario. Tengo entendido que el distrito de San Francisco tiene el mismo currículum en las escuelas, pero ¿por qué algunas tienen más estudiantes? Esas escuelas son las que más dinero tienen y más programas. Yo quiero que Guadalupe sea una de esas escuelas. Yo no quiero manejar 30 minutos para dejar a mi hijo a West Portal teniendo Guadalupe en mi vecindario. Pero ¿por qué West Portal tiene más programas? Los padres quieren a West Portal para sus hijos. Estamos en los Estados Unidos. Nuestros hijos tienen derecho de recibir una buena educación 100%, sin importar cuál escuela tiene más. Quiero que todos ofrezcan los mismos servicios sin importar en qué zona esté la escuela. Gracias.
Hi, my name is Noldia Castro, and my student attends Guadalupe. And I know that we do have a lot of children with some speech impediments, and it's been more than 100 days, and none of these kids were being assessed in our school, and it's because of the lack of not having a therapist. I know that there's a small school bus that it takes our students from Guadalupe to West Portal, and after that, some of the students, they actually stay in the after-school program. And so I don't understand what is happening, because I think that our school needs to have more funding. I know that SFUSD offers the same curriculum to every school. And so what is happening? Why certain schools, they receive more funding and more programs than other schools? The one thing is that I don't want to be driving for 30 minutes to pick up my child from West Portal. And we're in the US, our kids were born here, and we know that they have rights, right to education and to receive the same sort of service. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Roberto, and my last name is Guzman. I am representing Guadalupe School, or the parents of Guadalupe School. I have 3 kids in Guadalupe. I have 2 kids in kindergarten. My son is in 2nd grade. In the last school year, he started getting speech therapy. For the past 109 days, he haven't been able to get it. Imagine how important it is to be able to communicate. Imagine how frustrating it is not to be able to communicate with your partners in your classroom. imagine not to be able to communicate with your teacher. It has been a hard second grade. Okay, I was informed that the school district is hire therapists for Guadalupe, but only twice a week is provided. It's 29 students in need of therapies.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Buenas noches. Hola, estoy muy emocionada por el espacio que nos están dando a los padres. Gracias por eso. Mi nombre es Mariela. Mi hija es Valentina Galicia. Ella está cursando TK en la escuela Guadalupe Elementary School. Lamentablemente me estoy viendo en la necesidad de cambiar a mi hija de escuela, ya que las escuelas como Portland West, Alice Fongju o Clarendon tienen mejor nivel académico y mejores recursos que la escuela Guadalupe. Y no entiendo cómo Guadalupe no cuenta con esos mismos recursos y fondos, ya que somos parte del mismo distrito y según San Francisco presume de la igualdad. Si Guadalupe tuviera esos mismos recursos, no me vería en la necesidad de mandar a mi hija a esas escuelas, que me quedan como a 40 minutos de distancia. Sé que hay un bus que recoge estudiantes en mi vecindario para trasladarlos a esas escuelas. Entonces, no tiene sentido tener a Guadalupe en el vecindario si hacen eso. Realmente sería un sueño hecho realidad poder contar con esos recursos y fondos para nuestra escuela y tener ese mismo nivel académico que esas escuelas. Gracias.
Hi, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. So my name is Mariela, and I have a daughter who attends Guadalupe. Her name is Valentina. And I want to switch my kid to a different school, such as Clarendon and any others, because I don't understand why these schools, they actually have better resources and Guadalupe doesn't. It's all about with SFUSD talking about equity, but what's going on with the funding and the resources that different schools have more than others. You know, I don't want to change my school since the school is in my neighborhood, but I feel obligated to actually switch her to a different school and probably drive for 40 minutes, which is not resourceful for me. And I know that there's a little bus that take children from Guadalupe to different school grounds to receive the same resources that Guadalupe does not have. So it would be, and it just makes no sense. So it would be a dream come true if Guadalupe received the same funding and resources as other schools. Thank you.
Great, call the next group. Samuel Nelson, Joshua Blaines, Michelle Litzke, Cassandra Curio, Chris Klaus. Please come to the podium, 1 minute each.
Board, thank you for your time. My name is Sam Nelson. I'm a registered nurse at John O'Connell High School. I'm here to speak about the gym facility at our school. I am not going to speak about the special education topic and budget. I have colleagues who will be able to speak to that far better than I can. I just stepped into the athletic director role this fall and have been trying to support a school that has over 90% people of color, 75% of our students are poverty line or below. And quite a few of our students wish they had the space that they need to train, to have community, to bring in the external community into our space. The gym, as any athletic opportunity, provides a way to hold students accountable to each other, to help grades and attendance, to increase accountability, as I said, and engagement on campus. The request is to completion the repairs by August, not November, if possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
And here are 100 letters by students.
Hello, my name is Joshua Blakes. I'm the assistant varsity boys basketball coach at John O'Connell. I am here speaking about the gym access that we don't have currently, and I'm here to say that there's a lot more pros than there is cons to us having access to our facilities. It definitely keep our kids out of trouble. I definitely am one that speaks to make sure that we make our kids not only better players, but better people. It's very important to have a great character, but in order to do that, we need resources. Without those resources, we cannot provide what we need to the students that we do have. Our students do deal with a lot outside of school, and also to come to school and deal with those same things. Me as a coach, I am one of those outlets and those influences that can help them change their lives. Unfortunately, I didn't have all the resources that I needed, but I want to make sure as long as I'm alive that I can provide all resources needed for every student that come across my path. So I am here to speak up not only for my students, but any students across the district that do need that help. And I hope that you guys stand strong with us, not only with myself, but as long with everyone else in here to make change and that important change that we all need. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Michelle Leitzke. I was a resource specialist at San Francisco Unified for 10 years. I'm here to speak to advocate for special education students and more resources.
Sorry.
The job of special education of a special education teacher is broad. The responsibilities include evaluating new students, writing IEPs, and holding parent meetings, as well as managing a full caseload. The students I taught were often 2 or more years below grade level in reading and math. Their needs were high and required a teacher who was fully responsible for their learning. I did my best to keep up with all these responsibilities. I was at school each morning by 6 and I didn't leave before 5. I wrote initial IEPs on weekends and holidays. My students still didn't get the teaching time they needed, and I burned out. Students with learning disabilities are among the most vulnerable students. We desperately need more resources so that special education teachers are not spread so thin, and it's so thin that students' learning suffers and teachers can focus on teaching. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Chris Klaus, a special education teacher at Washington High School. In education, you meet and have the privilege of working with some awesome, loving, and dedicated people. One of the best things about SPED is the close working relationships between educators and families. And that is one of the things that drives us to keep fighting for our students, especially when factors beyond our control interfere. After all, it takes a village to raise a child. And nowhere is that more true than in special education, where that village must be even more patient, flexible, and determined than ever. I've had the privilege of working with amazing educators, starting with my time as a sub when I relied on classroom paras to steer me in the right direction. And then during my time as one of those paras where my colleagues taught me the ropes. I continue to be humbled by the resilience and empathy that my colleagues put into this work every day. Thank you to my fellow SPED educators and to the students and families that we have the honor and duty to fight for. You are loved and seen.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Cassandra Curiel, president of UESF, who represents classified and certificated educators. We've heard some words of real weight and importance from our colleagues who are special educators, and even more important to me than that is actually the families and the students who have been coming and speaking out around special education needs. Ultimately, what needs to get taken away from tonight and from what we hope to be a successful bargaining reopener on special education issues is that when educators are voicing and articulating what's needed in the classroom, we're doing that because our students need that, because our families have told us they need more, because the students' success is based on how much we can give. Now, there are only so many hours in the week that we are in school, but those should be maximized for us to be able to provide the resources and learning and access and creating the welcoming environment for students that leads to success. When we're in a special education program, what we need from the district is to ensure that we have fully staffed positions. We need to fill those vacancies. And one of the ways that we can start to chip away at that is in re-envisioning and innovating at this table, the beginning to what is the new special education program that's necessary. And we can do that for classified when we need paraeducators. We've heard this all year long about how much our paraeducators are impacting our students' access. And then on top of that, filling in what we need to do to attract and retain educators so that our colleagues who burn out, we don't keep replicating that system. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we did move a little bit past 8:15. We started late. I did want to note that there's a number of different speaker cards, especially here from UE. So if we could see a show of hands who came out to speak, who didn't get to speak, that would be helpful. And your affiliation with, if you are here with UE or otherwise. Okay. All right, we can, do you want to do it afterwards? Okay, okay. Okay, I'm sorry we didn't get to you, but.
With UE, but we're a parent.
I'm
I'm
s-
not affiliated with the union. I'm a
Okay,
parent.
I understand. We are trying to get started in our business meeting and we're trying this out and I wanted to see how many folks were still left. If you'd like, you are able to participate online or to give public comment on non-agenda items after we close our business.
We have a parent and a student that sat in this whole meeting to be able to speak. Seriously, like it's like 8:30.
A parent and a student? Okay, all right.
Right.
Yes, it was announced at the beginning of the meeting that I was going to cut at 8:15. It's now 8:20.
No, you just said that you couldn't go past 9. Right.
No,
That's
so
what we heard.
the students have to be released at 9, so we're trying to get to board business so the students can participate. So at this time, it's past 8:15. I'm going to conclude public comment for today.
Just let the parent speak. Just let us speak.
We-
We have been here for.
Okay. Thank you very much. We will have us, yes, please, may we hear from the student and then we will conclude public comment for the evening.
Can a student come to the podium, please? 1 minute.
Hello, my name is Varti Borman. I'm from John O'Connell High School. I am in 11th grade. I am in the special ed classes along with a lot of my other peers. I feel like our students in special ed are not getting the support that we need because we are getting a larger class that I've heard, and that's harder for us, especially for myself, for learning in bigger class settings. It's harder. And for as other students, I see it's harder for us. And getting individual support from from the specific teachers that are assigned to help us as case managers, I feel like that's being unrepresented, unhelpful. I also feel like that I just believe that COTA is very more important than every other thing. COTA is primarily what is helping us get honor roll. And for me, I was able to achieve 2 honor rolls of last year. And I was really excited to get that as an unexpected thing. And I want to say thank you.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we will move, I skipped over our superintendent's report and student delegates report. So we will return to those items at this time. Superintendent's report first.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for all your comments this evening. I just have a few updates. All right, and as we heard,
We are not
Okay.
represented.
all right, so as we all know, this month is Black History Month. And as a school district that values diversity, we believe Black history should be celebrated 365 days a year and 366 in this leap year. We also recognize the importance and relevance and origins of Black History Month and value the fundamental opportunity Black History Month offers schools to acknowledge African Americans as critical to the past, present, and future. And although we've made progress in our efforts, and we're going to hear about that in our report from the African American Achievement Leadership Initiative, we know that there are still persistent gaps in access, experience, and outcomes for our Black students in our district, city, and country. We are proud that there are many examples of school staff, of students, staff, and school sites and school communities in SFUSD who are uplifting the achievements and history of Black Americans all year, and especially during the month of February. And we are excited about the many ways each of our schools celebrates Black History Month. And so we heard some comments tonight, and one, if you go to the next slide, want to highlight one of the areas where we're working hard to ensure that our Black students feel listened to, heard, and seen as the brilliant students they are. This is an example from Ulloa Elementary School.
Laughter is mixed in with learning and business around this table at Ulloa Elementary.
All right. And so
that's El Khalid McCree, a parent volunteer, keeping everyone on track during this get-together of the Black Student Union.
What do you like about science?
They meet every other week to learn about and celebrate Black excellence and to build community. The first order of business on this day.
Can we come up with a date on when you guys want to do the drive?
They're planning on giving back to the community by collecting and distributing cases of water to those in need.
We have 2 Aprils and 1 May.
Next up, a brief history lesson about 2 Black inventors.
There's Black excellence everywhere that you turn and look.
We have only a handful of African American students at school, and we want to give them a safe space where they can find rapport with one another, share, learn, and connected to the community.
Always remember that you guys are bright lights, okay?
Yeah. And again, one example of many in this district, but I appreciate this is an example where it was definitely seen there is a need to take action, and you see the community come together, the school leadership, parent support, and then again, working with our district leadership as well. Also, last week was National School Counseling Week, and just really want to give a shout out to our counselors. You know, I visit our high schools and see the relationship they have with our students, and so thank you for helping our students achieve school success and plan for a career in college when they leave us here at SFUSD. If you go to the next slide. It's also the 50th anniversary of the Lau versus Nichols decision. And this is important as this was a U.S. Supreme Court case that originated in San Francisco Unified School District over 50 years. And the court's decision on January 21st, 1974 continues to require districts across the country to provide programs and services for multilingual learners and their families. And in SFUSD, we're committed to ensuring the success of multilingual learners with the Multilingual Learner Roadmap along as our guide. And here at SFUSD, we enroll students who speak dozens of different languages, and our public schools benefit from this diversity. Multilingualism and multiculturalism are assets we aim to develop and nurture in our students. And if you go to the next slide, we have really incredible multilingual programs across the district. And so now's the time to be applying for schools. The first deadline was February 2nd, but if you didn't get your application in, you have till April 19th for round 2, and we'll be sending out notices shortly about where students will be offered a spot. And if you go to the next slide, just also want to recognize and wish everyone a happy Lunar New Year and say Gong Hei Fat Choi to everyone who is celebrating. During Lunar New Year, SFUSD schools often hold celebrations on their campuses and participate in the annual Lunar New Year parade in San Francisco. I was out there last year with Gordon J. Lau and plan to be out again. And so in the Year of the Dragon, let's live our shared value of being united. And then lastly, just I want to speak, I know there were comments tonight about our special education programs and other services we need to provide in the schools, and it's how committed we are to making sure that we are providing the services for our students and families, and that we're supporting our staff as well. And so we are committed to continuing those discussions and following through on previous agreements. So I want to remind our community that we're planning to follow through by the end of the month on the previous agreements to increase compensation for our staff for this year. And again, are committed to continuing these conversations moving forward. So with that concludes my report for this evening.
And now our report from our student delegate.
Thank you, President Matomedy. The Student Advisory Council has been working on planning our annual youth summit. During this event, high school students from across the school district come together for free leadership workshops, guest speakers, and then also the student delegate candidate panel for next school year. We're excited to share this event and look forward to having this take place on April 5th.
Thank you so much. And we'll now move on to item F, annual report on resolution in support of the achievement and success of all African-American students in the San Francisco Unified School District. Dr. Wayne, will you introduce the item, please?
Thank you. And I'd like to bring up our African-American Achievement Leadership Initiative team led by Letitia Irving. You can give them a round of applause. And so this is our annual report on progress. And I just want to share how proud of the progress we have made, recognizing how much more work we have to do, but knowing the commitment we have from as a district and from this team and of our leaders and our staff to make sure we're doing right by our African-American students. And so the full report is available online. You may be seeing it handed out to us now as well. And tonight's presentation will just provide some highlights of the progress we've made in serving our African-American students, as well as where we need to make continued progress and redouble our efforts to achieve our goals. Thank you. Director Irving.
Thank you, Dr. Wayne. Greetings again, Letitia Irving, the Director of the African American Achievement Leadership Initiative. I am joined by Ali team members here at the dais, but also right behind me, this fabulous team, as you can see them standing for me. Thank you. It is our privilege to present to you tonight the key highlights of our collaborative efforts over the past year, snippets of our program impact, and a glimpse into our future endeavors. As a reminder of our ongoing commitment, while this presentation is brief, I'm going to try, our dedication to the Black community, including students, families, educators, and partners, remains steadfast. Our accountability extends beyond this moment. There will be more opportunities to engage, I promise. Within our department, our mission is clear: to cultivate and nurture the inherent brilliance of our students, coordinate comprehensive supports. You can go to the next slide, excuse me. Coordinate comprehensive supports offered to our brilliant scholars, foster a growth mindset to combat bias and stereotype threat, and ensure culturally responsive and rigorous instruction. Additionally, we strive to enhance accountability and transparency of the services that are being delivered at our sites, as a district office, and in our community. Next slide, please. In the spirit of transparency, let's start with the current state of Black students in SFUSD. I'll now hand it over to our educational policy analyst, Ms. Laura Hinton, to share some collected data, and to provide an overview of our programs and key highlights.
Thanks, Letitia. So last year, there were nearly 3,000 Black students in the district. And when you consider multiracial students, there were nearly 5,000 Black students in the district. We wanted to highlight two academic outcomes. An area of promise we saw was the reduction in chronic absenteeism for Black students. Last year, SFUSD reduced chronic absenteeism by 7 percentage points for Black students. And students in two of our programs, Mastering Cultural Identity and Black Star Rising, saw a 33 percentage point reduction in absenteeism. An area of opportunity we saw was standardized test scores. Although we are getting students to attend school more, that hasn't yet translated to academic outcomes. And we'll talk more about why we think that is in our recommendations. But for now, test scores for Black students in the district are still about 110 points away from proficiency in ELA and 150 points away from proficiency in math. Next slide, please. Now I'd like to give an overview of Ollie's programs. We have APAC, the African American Parent Advisory Council, a parent-led organization designed to listen, educate, and advocate with and for families of Black children. Black Star Rising, which aims to increase access and implementation of culturally relevant responsive pedagogies and holistic support in STEM. Mastering Cultural Identity, a classroom space designed to increase students' academic capacity and skills while also building a greater sense of cultural self-esteem, sense of belonging, agency leadership, and self-efficacy. pitch a multi-year commitment to coordinate and resource high-impact, sustainable strategies aimed at enhancing the achievement of Black students in 10 historically underserved schools and 10 high-equity gap schools. We also have each and every student by name, which you'll hear more about later. Next slide, please. We're proud of the impact that our main programs had in the last year. We're about to talk about MCI more in depth. So on this slide, I'm going to highlight APAC and BSR. For APAC, I thought that this quote really captured their impact succinctly, which is that APAC is the blueprint for making change in the district and will continue to make strides for Black family excellence and equity today, tomorrow, and into the future. And for BSR, we were proud to see a 95% average daily attendance rate for the summer, and 82% of BSR students are on track to graduate. Now I'm going to pass it off to Bobby Pope, our Elementary and Middle School Partnerships Programs Manager, to talk about MCI more in depth.
Thank you, Laura, and good evening to the board members and to the community. Our Mastering Cultural Identity course is designed to increase student sense of self and student sense of belonging, increase student agency and efficacy, increase student literacy, and decrease the opportunity gap. MCI is taught by Black educators and located in 3 elementary schools, 8 middle schools, and 2 high schools with over 450 students enrolled. Next slide, please. Research consistently shows that a strong sense of belonging is a precursor to effective learning, and we build a strong sense of belonging in our students through the implementation of culturally responsive curriculum and culturally responsive pedagogy, which we do in partnership with the Kingmakers of Oakland via an intensive professional development process with our MCI instructional leaders. We teach literacy for liberation along with self-efficacy and agency. We also partner with 826 Valencia to assist our students with writing and sharing their authentic stories. And our partnership with the American Reading Company is designed to ensure our facilitators are trained to assess student reading and coach student reading. ARC also provides culturally relevant libraries for MCI classrooms. Next slide, please. We are also very excited to present the findings from a research project that was recently completed by Tom Gies and James Payne of Stanford. They did a causal study looking at the relationship between MCI enrollment and student retention in the district. And they found that there is a 14 percentage point increase in the probability of a Black student staying in SFUSD due to enrolling in MCI. About 1 in 5 or 20% of Black 6th graders leave the district by high school. So MCI has the potential to have a huge impact on student retention in SFUSD, allowing the district to retain Black students and ultimately revenue. Next, we will have a video featuring Akila Shade sharing her experience in the MCI class.
My name is Akila Shade. I am 17 years old. I'm in my senior year of high school and I live in Visitation Valley, San Francisco. Participating in the MCI class definitely, it helped my confidence. Not only did it help my confidence, it helped my public speaking. I think definitely learning about my history, Black history, definitely it gave me a different view on myself. It made me want to believe in myself more, and it made me realize the stance that I have as a young Black woman, not only in the Bay, but in the United States. It made me realize that I have to have a bigger stance because of who I am, and to use my stance to help people and educate people. It made me believe in myself more. It made me have a better understanding of other people and their experiences. And yeah.
Yeah, let's clap it up for Akila.
My name is Akila Shade. I am 17 years old.
As a district, we have been talking about street data and making sure that we center and elevate the experiences and knowledge of our students and communities that support them. Akila's offering is just one example of the data that drives our work and the level of the impact that our work makes. Thank you, Akila. As stewards of accountability and transparency, we have been charged with elevating best practices and high-impact approaches to Black student achievement. For that, we're going to present the following recommendations. 1, We must expand culturally relevant curriculum and instruction in this district. 2, we must ensure rigorous instruction and high expectations across pre-K sites. It's important to note that only 28% of classrooms observed in the 2022 TNTP audit demonstrated strong instructional practices. Only 47% of those classes showed evidence of teachers having high expectations, and in classrooms where there were Black, Brown, and children receiving special education services, they were 2.2 times more likely to have less high expectations. Our third recommendation is to strengthen home-to-school partnerships. As the African proverb says, it takes a village to raise a child. We do not do this alone. Our children come from homes and communities that love them and act as their first and most consistent teachers. We must partner with those core teachers in order to see the outcomes that our children deserve. Fourth recommendation is to continue investing in racial affinity spaces. We have to have these protected spaces. Lastly, we must do the work towards creating safe academic environments for our students to learn across all SFUSD sites. SFUSD's historic disproportionality roots itself in anti-Blackness and implicit bias and unfair disciplinary practices that create unsafe learning environments for Black children. Push out or messages that say you do not belong will not get us to our academic goals. Next slide, please. As an example of the work that we are doing that embeds many of those recommendations, but also pays attention to the individual needs of Black and Pacific Islander students and their families, is through Dr. Wayne's Each and Every by Name. This initiative aims to support achieving our 48% literacy proficiency goal for Black and Pacific Islander kindergartners by June 2024. Our approach involves comprehensive case management, partnership building, data tracking, and capacity building for educators. It is a collaborative effort led by Ali, heavily supported by APAC and our incredibly committed central office teams. Next slide, please. There will never, and I see that clock, there will never be enough time to talk about the brilliance of Black students or the work that we are doing to continue cultivating that brilliance. While time constraints prevent a full exploration of our work, please know that it does not stop here. Until then, we extend a heartfelt thanks to our partners, many who are listed and printed in the report, and many who are in the audience today. We are deeply grateful for your trust and collaboration in advancing our collective mission. We must continue together to prioritize the needs and aspirations of our Black children in our policies, our practices, and our instructional strategies. To the Black community who is here and online, this work belongs to you. Everything we do within this department and all that we are working towards with our colleagues on this board, our superintendent, to produce should be a reflection of what you have asked for and what you have trusted us with, which is to educate your children. Please continue to hold us accountable. Please stand up and advocate for our children, and please continue to shine. Happy Black History Month. Again, our full report is linked. There are some printed copies. There's also a QR code you can scan and get it, and we're going to put it online. So and also last thing, be sure to check out that draft APAC documentary, which was funded with the Dreamkeepers Initiative. It is an incredible documentary, and we're so very proud of the work of our families. Thank you.
Well done, and on time too. I wanted to ask my commissioners first if there was any clarifying questions that they heard in the presentation before I offer it up to offer a couple minutes per commissioner to ask any questions. All right, no, it looks like no clarifying questions. So if anybody has questions, please go forward, or comments.
Thank you so much for your presentation and all your hard work. Definitely want to appreciate the staff and the families that are really helping to anchor and push the work forward. Really appreciate the report and the data and highlighting the struggles that Black families and Black students are seeing and accessing the education that we offer here as a district. My first question, I'll try to keep these brief and quick, is to the superintendent. Kind of understanding the impact that Ali is having, as well as kind of the programs that kind of branch out from it. What should African-American students and families expect who are outside of the schools that are kind of engaging in these practices? So like, what should we be saying to them, kind of knowing that these things are in particular school sites and not accessible as a parent whose child isn't at a school that is engaging in all these things? I'm curious what you would say and kind of how you balance, I guess, that lack of equity of access for families across the district.
Yes, very good question, because we, value each and every student and their family. And so we want to make sure we're providing the appropriate services. And so I think one is, as we are seeing these programs and seeing the efficacy of the programs, our efforts to expand them. So for example, in the report, you'll see research how the Mastering Cultural Identity has really helped retain our Black students in middle school and created an experience for them. And so this is a course we're looking to offer more sections for. And then I visited myself and can see, and you have as well, and can see that impact. Same thing you'll see in our algebra, our 8th grade math and algebra presentation, expanding Black Star Rising to lower grades. But then I think what Letitia spoke to, that really the systemic work that needs to happen is what's happening in the classroom and the improved instruction, which should be regardless of what school a Black student goes to, that they're seeing high quality instruction that's tailored to their needs. And then as well as our Each and Every initiative, which is starting with kindergartners, but what I want to say to families is you should expect, year after year, we're getting to know more of you and all of you, so that then by the time our students are going through the school, they understand that as a district, the system's behind them and they have allies, and regardless of which school that they attend.
Appreciate that. I think I don't feel like I heard a full response to my question. And it does seem like there isn't necessarily a lot that is offered to African-American students and their families outside of the schools where these programs are offered. And I think for me, that kind of hits on what is the district's long-term commitment to these efforts and ensuring that they are a central part of the district. I don't feel like I have seen as a parent or as a commissioner a long-term commitment to these things, or the way that these things are being integrated into the school district. And I think that also, coincides with my disappointment in your leadership and showing leadership around these things and how we're really anchoring and stabilizing them. Not just for African-American students, but all of our smaller student populations that seem to be left out of the primary focus of the district, whether that's special education, variety of other groups. And so I'm really curious what you see moving forward that will shift this landscape and really create a different dynamic, both in practice and in the culture in the district, to really center the communities that have been historically left back. Knowing we have a lot of good stuff happening, but that is not a reflection of what's happening everywhere in the district. And I would even say, like with Black History Month, like what is the quality of Black history celebration education across the district? How much of that is left to parents to do in isolation? And not just Black History Month, but all the other cultural celebrations. And so I guess when I'm curious, I know I said a lot to you, but I'm curious, how do you square these things and how do they fit into all the structural shifts that we have to do, knowing that we're in a time of reduction, of less, right? How do we fit these things in and make them a staple of what we do going forward, and not just pay lip service as we have in the past, but actually show a different type of commitment?
Yes, so you did share a lot of questions there, but I'm going to go back to the key point of what we are about as a district, as a Board of Education, and what we're trying to do as district leadership. And that's, we have a commitment to our goals for student outcomes and following through on our guardrails. And so yes, there are programs that we have that are supporting our students and trying to make up the gap, but what matters is what's happening during the 1,000 hours our students spend in the classroom each year. That's our time where we have the most opportunity to make an impact, and we need to make, and that's the impact for our Black students and for our other groups as well. So not just through programs outside, but what's happening in the classroom. As Letitia shared, Both the TNTPA survey showed that the level of instruction that our Black students and other students need is not there. And as well as when you see the outcomes, it's not there. And so that's why we have our targeted goals to show that we're making progress for our Black students. So really the answer to your question will be, as we do our progress monitoring reports, are we seeing that difference in student outcomes? Because that's ultimately what we want, and for our students, what our families want is to see those improved outcomes. But you're correct, we have not achieved those yet. And but you're hearing some of the efforts we're making to achieve the academic outcomes, not just providing additional programs.
Commissioner Lamb, and if you could keep your comments and questions to a couple minutes.
Yes, I will be brief. No surprise. Thank you to the Ollie team. It's really exciting to see your work over this past year and as we're into the new initiative. So I wanted to ask about the Each and Every by name. I'm so thrilled. From the first time I was in serving as the education advisor to Mayor Breed, these were some of the conversations that we're having with city leaders and with district staff. So I'm curious now that, you know, it's the initiation of the initiative, our goal, our targeted interim goal is very ambitious. And to have Ali kind of pivot to this new model of, you know, centralized office support around case management. If you all can share with me, what are some of the strategies that you're seeing that you're going to need in order to be supported to be able to fulfill this goal, and wanted to offer up also that acknowledging that the Ollie team cannot do it alone, that you have city partners. And so I'll just pause there, let you respond around, because I know even putting together a coordinated care team during COVID district-wide was an enormous lift. So want to hear the practicalities of what you're facing today in this initial of the Each and Every by name.
Thank you. I'll try to be brief, Commissioner Matomedy or President Matomedy. So first, Dr. Wayne has been incredibly, like, this is what we're doing, like, no question about it. And having his leadership come into our coordinated care team meetings, which meets the fourth Monday of every month. It's a part of our think tank that we hold with the comprehensive coordinated early intervening services, CSACE. And so we're in those meetings, and superintendent walked in and said to our central office partners, this work is important. This is what you're going to do. And so I think having it from the top made a difference, for one. Two, yesterday, I wasn't here. Was it yesterday or Monday? Mrs. Rice Mitchell and the SFSD team came together to make it everybody's priority. So how are we doing this with all of the departments where we're all talking about each individual kid? And one thing I'll note is that we were doing it just for kindergarten. The goal is very ambitious, 48% by 2024. And initially we said we were going to go from 24% to 48%. But when we looked at the kids this year, the young people this year, they were at 31%. So it is not as ambitious. It's still huge, but not as ambitious as it was before. So working with RPA, working with central office leaders, now going into our schools and talking to our administrators to say, how can we help you? We're not asking our schools to do more work. We're asking our schools to tell us the strategies that they have put in and then tell us what we need to do to double down on it. So this is where we need your help, right? This is an initiative, and we have to be real. We just bought $40,000 worth of decodable readers that APAC is going to facilitate getting out into these families, these Pacific Islander and Black kindergarten families. We're also doing something for 6th grade and for 9th grade, our transitional grades. But for the kindergarten students, we use that $40,000 out of Ali's budget. Ali is 100% grant funded, as you all know. Our positions are paid through the Public Education Enrichment Fund, and then every other partner, Salesforce, LinkedIn, Bayer, all these amazing folks who pour into us, but those are grants. When they leave, then what? And so how are we to fund this and really do supplemental, because that's a part of the promise of Each and Every. Each and Every is when the schools uplift, they need additional support, we need to provide it. We can't pay lip service to that either. Just saying, tell us what you want, tell us what you need, this individual child. And then when they tell us, we're like, oh, damn, we don't have it. It's unacceptable. And so we're going to need poured investment. And so this is the investment of time from community-based organizations. This is the investment of our city to say, what other resources do you need? And it's the investment in financial resources. How do we fund tutoring? How do we fund if we need, so one of the examples was, it doesn't really take funding for this. They said we couldn't test our kindergarten students. We didn't have enough time, none of the people to do the tests, right? To run out the test, or the staff was overwhelmed with what was happening. Ritu's office and RPA said, call us, we'll go do the testing for you. That's not sustainable though. So what's a sustainable model? And so we're gonna need help thinking that through. We need finances, we need help, and we need our community-based organizations who already step up for the Black and Pacific Islander community to step in a little harder and provide that direct service so that we can elevate their achievement.
Thank you. And I just wanted to comment that, you know, through the city departments, including the Department of Early Childhood, is really also thinking about its investments in supporting Black students and their families. So it's really an opportunity for that partnership and alignment. And I also know that under Dr. Davis and the Human Rights Commission, how important through the Dreamkeepers Initiative has been not only funding the work of Ali, but I also think there's an opportunity around how we wrap around our supports around the whole child and their household and families.
Sorry, can I throw one more thing in there? Laura pulled our data for, and Ritu's office as well, for kindergarten readiness. We saw that only 49% of Black and Pacific Islander children were ready. That's before they hit SFUSD. So SFUSD has a Herculean job to try to catch young people up, right? And differentiate instruction for all of these beautiful minds in the classroom, but that happens before they even get to us. So what are we doing as a city and as a community to make sure those young people get the resources that they need before they get to school? And so that is how we pour into them. And so to hear that the early education department is there, what are we doing? And for those who are not in early education, those who are working or sitting at home with grandma and grandma's babysitting, what are we doing as a community and as a city to make sure grandma has the resources to help those children come in and be kindergarten ready?
All right, I believe Student Delegate Toe has a question or a comment.
Yes, I just want to say thank you for your presentation. I especially admired the recommendation to expand culturally relevant curriculums and instruction. I have been on multiple walkthroughs with my school administration, and one of the boxes when we are discussing like the performance of like the curriculum and also just instruction in general is cultural relevancy. And typically the box is unchecked because we haven't seen it. I was just wondering what exactly is the vision for cultural relevancy within curriculum, and how can our boards support that vision?
I look back for Dr. Aguilera Fort and thinking about what we're doing as a district around curriculum, or Dr. Priestley if she's in here. But what I will say is that ethnic studies hasn't gone anywhere. But how is ethnic studies not just a singular course that only some kids take? We're mandated to do it 100%. I think we're at the time where we're supposed to embed it, and I'm not sure that we're seeing it across our schools, but there is more around curriculum and instruction as we're redoing. So I'll invite Dr.
And I can chime in. And first I have to say it really inspires me to hear that you're participating in walkthroughs. And that is when I talk about improving the 1,000 hours in the classroom, we have some dimensions that we're looking for of what should we be seeing in the classroom. And so encouraging to know that you're participating in looking for that, discouraging to hear that you're not seeing it as frequently as it needs to happen. And so Dr. Aguilera Ford is working on what's our professional learning approach to ensure that culturally responsive teaching is part of what we see in the classroom and that the students get to experience. And so that is embedded in our core rubric and that we use to look at what's going on in the classroom. And I think what you're speaking to, and then what Director Irving was speaking to in response to each and every, I mean, that, you know, again, when the difference we need to see is really around the accountability. Like, are we seeing change? Because we've had this initiative for a while. There's been a commitment for a long time in this district to serving African-American students, but we haven't seen that change in terms of the outcomes for students. And that's where we're, you know, again, this board has said we're going to be holding ourselves accountable to seeing a difference in those areas. So I'm glad to hear that even our students are participating in some of those accountability and support activities.
Commissioner Weissman-Warren.
I also think it's very cool that you are a part of those walkthroughs. So thank you for that. Thank you, team, for the presentation. I'm going to keep this really short. I don't actually have questions. I think was one of the questions I had Commissioner Lamb asked, and I thought that your response was really helpful and insightful in terms of we're looking for initiatives that are supported consistently with cohesion in a holistic way, internally and externally. And I think the way that we want to continue to support that, and we want to start to support more. I support every single one of the recommendations listed. And one of the things that really struck me in terms of the report is page 17, it's by the numbers, and that there's so much crossover. So when you look at sense of belonging, sense of worth and value is tied to a desire to show up in school, to be in school, to be present, and one's ability to engage and to learn, like we know all of our students are capable of. So I really appreciate that these different statistics are shared with an emphasis on how they're related. And just to you, Ms. Irving, I think your leadership, like you embody leadership with your commitment to cultivating and growing power and your commitment to sharing that power. So thank you, and thank you to your team.
Commissioner Fisher.
Hello, friends. I should preface my comments with saying that, like in the Hair Club for Men, I'm not just a commissioner, I'm also a participant, an APAC member, and my kiddo went through Black Star Rising this summer, and our personal data point was that last year in 8th grade, I have the data, 50% of his math assignments were turned in late or left incomplete. Actually, 6 by the end of the semester, 6% of his work just didn't get turned in. And right now, just I checked Parent View before tonight's meeting, he had 0 missing assignments in math, and he has a B. So he's not going to appreciate being put on blast like that, I don't suppose. But having said that, thank you for the bright spots tonight. Thank you for always highlighting the beauty and the achievement and what amazing, brilliant scholars our students are. And I think we need to hear more of that. And I also think we need to hear more of it from places other than just Ali. I'm so grateful that we as a district have an Ali, but we shouldn't need an Ali to support our Black and brown students. It is the responsibility of each and every one of us. Talking about each and every child, each and every adult that supports our student is responsible for nurturing that Black brilliance as well. So I think we need to name that more often as well. But also I appreciated the former comments about the resources. I think that's going to be critical in a year as we're looking. Resource allocation and resource alignment is the next big conversation. And so as we look to expand this work, thank you to the Human Rights Commission. Thank you to the Dreamkeeper Initiative. Thank you to all the folks who are providing the grants. But what are we as a district doing with our budget to show that, we're putting our money where our mouth is? Budgets are a value statement, right? If we value this work, what are we doing to support it? So, all right. Okay. All right. And thank you for this. You've highlighted a lot of wonderful people in here, some amazing, brilliant student scholars are highlighted in here. Can't wait to take this home and read it with them. So, so thank you very much. So my real question is really just about what does resource allocation look like when we're actually talking about expanding this program next year? So.
Yeah, no, so, and just in terms of, again, we appreciate your citing your own student success. And I don't know if you mentioned it, as he was a part of the Black Star Rising over the summer, which I think led to some of that increased confidence in math. And that's why we're wanting to expand that program to 5th grade.
And the algebra lab this fall, that was a big part of it.
Oh, good. Okay. And so we're expanding that program to 5th grade. You'll hear that a bit later tonight, to help students go into middle school more confident in math, help our Black students go into middle school more confident and prepared in math to ultimately be prepared for algebra in the 8th grade.
Vice President Alexander.
Can I respond to that? Just sorry, President Matomedy. So we have talked about being in conversation about what it takes to expand. And this again will go to financial resources. It takes a lot to run the Black Star Rising just for our rising 8th graders. And so if we're going to have this conversation about expanding, we're going to have to put money where it matches that money and staff and personnel. And just right now we have one amazing, I would be remiss if I didn't shout out Brother Bay, who is a teacher over at Mission High School, who teaches our course, but he is doing that in partnership. We even had a parent come in and tutors or teach some math it's not sustainable. So we're gonna have to resource anything that we talk about expanding. And so as we're thinking about what that looks like, and then, sorry, last thing, when we talked about, yes, it has to be embedded in our system. That is true. Right, there shouldn't be an Ali, but I'm gonna put that plug in until it is completely embedded and sustainable in a sustainable way. Ali must be here to hold us accountable and to make sure the work is happening.
I am going to just interject for just a minute and say thank you to our student delegate for spending the evening. And it's a little bit after 9 o'clock, so go do homework. Vice President Alexander.
And I'm going to time myself too. I've been timing everyone else. So, yeah, this is my 4th year on this board, and I feel like every year one of the highlights is hearing from you all, and every year it gets better. So thank you for your leadership, and really, it is a bright spot in our district. And I guess my question is following up on those that were similar to some of my colleagues. We spoke about, you know, the words not being followed up by actions all the time. We spoke about Ali being a beacon of excellence, but it's not spreading perhaps everywhere in the district. And we talked about accountability. So I'm curious, Dr. Wayne, if you have thoughts on that, what does it look like to take a program like this and really make it the norm, right? And make their practices the norm across the district? What would accountability look like? What would bringing this to a systems level take so that we can, in a few years, get to a point where we're not just celebrating a portion of the district, but we're actually celebrating the entire district? Well, and again, that's what really the Each and Every by Name initiative is about, because I think for that, and as Commissioner Fisher said, the work of improving Black student achievement is not the work of Ali, right? It's the work of this district. And if it's seen as just the work of Ali, we're never going to be successful, because also Ali staff, I mean, they work thousands of hours each year, but they're not the ones who are in front of our students for 1,000 hours each year in the classroom. So it is that work of bringing the divisions together and then bringing our schools together to see what practices in the schools do we need to make sure we're following through on, and then what are we doing when we see the individual data, what are the steps that we're taking? So the accountability isn't anything flashy in a presentation, but it is like literal spreadsheets of kids with names next to them, where we say, okay, as Letitia said, we see this child is not doing an assessment. Okay, how do we make sure the student's doing the assessment? But beyond that, what in the system is preventing the student from doing the assessment, so we can fix that. So that's really what it looks like. You know, the system rallying around our Black families and students, not just a department or division.
Commissioner Sanchez.
Thank you, President Matomedy, and thank you for the presentation and all the hard work throughout the years, Letitia and your team. I'm going to focus a little bit on the recommendations, just retrospectively and prospectively, because every year we get recommendations, not just from your organization or Ali, and we get them from others, and then we don't necessarily monitor them as a board or as a district. So I'm just wondering, how do you foresee, if you just take these 5 recommendations, how you would grade the district on their implementation? So like, just take the first one, expand culturally relevant curricula and instruction. That's very broad, but it's very necessary. How, if you come back, when you come back next year, how are you going to, or what metric will you use to show us whether we've done that or not?
So I'm going to work with my colleagues. We have, which is the beautiful thing, is that I have been going on these learning walks as well, and going into observed classrooms and with the middle school team. So middle school is a team I've been assigned. My entire team sits on the Each and Every by Name. And so they're also going into schools and partnering in the work. So that's one way we're holding folks accountable. We're at the table with them. We do this in partnership. This isn't just the Ali thing leading Each and Every, or asking for this. This is all of us. And so in partnership is one, us being at the table to make sure it's happening and in those classrooms. But I'm going to rely on working with the curriculum and instruction department, working with the lead team, and continue doing that to see if it exists. We're doing tallies. We're walking in. And like she said, when we're clicking on those boxes, do we see that? Then we'll be able to have numbers to come back to you and say it's not happening. And I can tell you now, we're in February, it's not happening. And it's not it's happening in some sites, but it's not happening across the board. And so we'll be able to come back with more numbers because we'll actually have evidence because we're in the building.
So just, thank you. Just to a request, I guess, is for next year's report to have that in the report. So these were the recommendations that we made last year. And this is where we see we've come. This is where we need to go. Because I think that oftentimes, like I said earlier, we get a lot of really wonderful recommendations. But we kind of lose them in the shuffle as time goes by. So it'd be really great to see where we are next year compared to this year.
You asked me to grade. I think it's unfair for me to do that because I think there's a lot of hard work that's happening in all of our departments that I may not always be aware of. But I do think this is a way to bring it back to the leaders that are in this space and our superintendent to say in these meetings where we're talking about instruction or we're talking about any of these things within what all of the various teams that we have, that we use those recommendations and grade ourselves. And not just Ali grading, but maybe this is a tipping point or a starting point for some of our other departments to start grading ourselves and just see where we would, across the board say and norm around, and then go back at it, look at it next year and say, hey, what progress did we make?
Okay, thank you.
So I'm going to go ahead and close this out. And that your last question was actually where my head was going a little bit. Because while I appreciate the presentations, it's the lack of the clear response and the burden on you to provide the updates and the presentations. So one of my observations is I would love to see Ali's recommendations be reflected in, for instance, the LCAP planning process, because that is a statutorily required place where this district is to respond. And I also think it's an environment where it's not so one way. It's a two-way discussion and a place to collaborate with other school communities to learn where you're seeing success and to share where they're seeing success or where they're seeing stumbling blocks. Because I definitely believe as we go forward with resource alignment, we're going to need to find that alignment and we're going to need to find all of our bright spots so we can get brighter together faster. So that's one of the recommendations that I've been making internally is to see your recommendations reflected, especially as we go through the new LCAP design that's supposed to be aligned with our goals and our guardrails and our student outcomes. So thank you. Oh, do you want to respond? Yeah, and I appreciate the presentation and the attendance improvements and the retention is fantastic. So that was really, really great to see in the report this year.
Just want to say that we are actively a part of the LCAP. I'm on the LCAP steering committee, so it does not get past me, just so you know that. And on top of that, I am sitting with the district team in the office of the superintendent who we're all really thinking about the LCAP. And one thing I'll say that Tim has done, which is really put an equity lens on it, which I think is really great. And so hopefully we'll be able to go back when we meet as a steering committee, and I will definitely make sure that these are seen or that we can somehow see them in the recommendations, as well as the superintendent in our last meeting shared, was we're thinking about what we're doing tier 1 and how do we norm equity in all of our tier 1 practices. And I think that includes these recommendations as well. Thank you all.
Thank you so much for staying past 9, staying up later than our student delegate. All right, moving on to section G, our action items. We have 2 action items this evening. We will begin with item 1, which is algebra in 8th grade recommendations. Oh, can I have a motion, please, and a second?
I'll move.
Second.
Thank you. And we do have a presentation before the board discusses the proposed action. So I'd like to bring up Dr. Aguilera Fort, our Associate Superintendent of Educational Services, and David Krugman, our Executive Director of Content. Unfortunately, Dr. Priestley was going to be here, but she's tuning in online. And All right, so can we get the presentation up? Thank you. Let me get to it here. So tonight we're presenting a recommendation for action from the Board of Education around 8th grade, our middle school math. But I want to step back just to make it clear what we are trying to accomplish as a district. And so if you go to the next slide, you'll see, again, the Board of Education has established ambitious goals for student outcomes, particularly the one in math achievement for our 8th grade, students. And so in order for us to meet that goal, we need to think, what is our vision for math for our middle school students and beyond? And our vision for students is that when they enter 6th grade, first of all, they're ready to be ready for mathematics and to be able to then be prepared for Algebra 1 in the 8th grade. So we're setting up students to successfully have access to algebra. Okay, and then the goal is that students reach math proficiency, then by 8th grade, and that they're ready for high school and to to participate in higher level math. And in particular, we want to increase the number of underrepresented students in higher level math. Okay. Now, I want to be clear, that goal is a goal we've had for a decade. And we have not yet achieved that goal. And so it requires us to really look at our policies and practices and say, what do we need to do differently to work towards that goal? And so we think in order to achieve this vision, if you go to the next slide, we need to really stay focused on our target for 8th grade math proficiency, and particularly increase the achievement of our Black students and other students of SFUSD who have been historically underserved and have not had success in higher level math. Okay, and while we're talking about 8th grade math, we know for them to meet our goal of college and career readiness, we need to increase the number of students who are taking math at higher levels and following through on the recommended A to G courses in mathematics. And as well, increasing again the number of underrepresented students in high-level mathematics and making sure any student who's ready and interested can take algebra in the 8th grade. And so if you go to the next slide, just to be clear on what we're asking for tonight, is that the Board of Education approves offering Algebra 1 in the 8th grade beginning in 24-25 school year and supports the actions necessary to implement the recommendations to revise our middle school math pathways and curriculum over the next 3 years. And so as we share tonight, what we're going to do is share our current math sequence, if you go to the next slide, and why we think we need to change the sequence. And then making a change like this is significant, and that's why we're saying over the next 3 years, so sharing the prototypes we'll pilot, as well as the new math curriculum and academic support. Then we'll talk about the options we're looking at for this next year, as well as share briefly the budget and implementation timeline. So to give us some background on where we are and where we need to go, I'd like to introduce again Associate Superintendent of Educational Services, Dr. Carlene Aguilera Fort.
Thank you, Dr. Wayne. Good evening, commissioners. Right now, I will speak about the current conditions of our math offerings from middle school. And most of you know because you're parents in the district, and so you have experienced these. Right now, our offering in middle school includes just the 3 linear math, 6, 7, and 8th grade. Then the students have the possibility of taking Algebra 1 in 9th grade. Then in 10th grade, students can take geometry, and from geometry, they will have 2 different ways of taking algebra. One, they have a compressed course, and that compressed course will offer them the possibilities of algebra and pre-calculus. If they do that, they will have the avenue of taking AP Calculus in AP statistics. The other option is for students to take Algebra 2. And if they do that, then they have the opportunity to take AP statistics and then pre-calculus. That's what we have currently. The following slide, please. So we are at this pivotal moment. Based on the data that we have collected, based on that particular research study that was conducted by Stanford, our team determined that our approach to math has not led to improve outcomes for middle school students at all levels. The student achievement have declined as students make progress to the SFUSD. And we have not been able to meaningfully increase the participation of underrepresented students in high-level maths across our high schools. And definitely this is a very important one. Fewer students are taking higher level mathematics in high school. And that's a fact that's based on the information that we have gathered. Following the slide. So we have to make a decision and we have to propose a different path. Because this is a major decision according to the guidelines of the board. This required a meaningful community engagement. To the best of our ability, our team worked in a very compressed time frame through these processes. We engage district team, we engage focus group, we engage middle school teachers, and we provided one town hall for community members to provide their perspective and their feedback. Given the time frame that we had to do this work, those were the ones that we were able to do. Definitely all of these is guided through the Office of the Superintendent, and we have a central planning team that also works with these different groups. Next slide, please. So here we are right now. After collecting the information from the community members and all these different committees, we are offering the following. Let's go to the next one. This is our plan. So this plan right now has two possibilities. One is to offer Algebra 1 in 8th grade, while at the same time identifying how we are going to support currently the students in 7, 6, and then at the elementary level. Readiness in math doesn't begin in middle school, it begins in elementary school. And that's why we are making sure that to get to that level, we are addressing the other needs that we have in math at the elementary level as well. So at the middle school level right now, it's happening, we will consider what are the different pathways in math. We need to adopt a sound, rigorous math curriculum. And one piece is we want to continue this goal of increasing representation of the students who have not been represented in these courses. That means that we have to adjust the schedule. We have to look at the instructional minutes, and that has been recommended. And at some point, there should be a math placement policy as the one that we have currently. We have to adjust that. Next one, please. So you will see the prototypes for Algebra 1 in 8th grade. Next one, please. It cannot be just prototypes and just putting math, Algebra 1 in 8th grade without having certain principles that will reflect the values and belief of San Francisco Unified School District. Hold on a second. We need to have differentiation. We need to provide access. We need to make it sustainable, and we need equitable representation. All of these, we want to make sure that we also provide support so the students will have access. Next one, please. We look at how other districts are doing, and you have, I'm not going to explain because of time, all of these, you have those in the slides, but we did look at those different offers that the other districts are doing across the state. Let's go to the next one. So what I would like to do now is to ask, so we can get into the other part of the content, Ms. Devin Krugman, who leads the content area teams in CNI, and she will walk us through the different prototypes.
Good evening. I will attempt to make it brief but detailed. So we're going to walk through the prototypes that we would like to propose piloting beginning in the 24-25 school year. And what I want to start with is that these prototypes are based on the feedback structures that were just shared with community members who engaged in our focus group, with middle school educators, administrators, teachers, with families. We've iterated on them multiple times, and we have tried to present a breadth of prototypes that are responsive to the needs raised by various stakeholders within the community. These prototypes represent models that we've seen be successful in other districts such as Long Beach, and represent the breadth of acceleration options that we see across these districts. Prototype number 1 is what we would call a course skipping option, where we have students going from Math 7 into Algebra 1 in the 8th grade. It also represents an all-in option, as the district has previously had, where 100% of students are enrolled, and we're going to talk about some of the support going with that. Prototype 2 is a compression course, where in the 8th grade, students would have a compressed Math 8 and Algebra 1 course based on both readiness and interest. And prototype number 3 is a concurrent math course, where students are concurrently enrolled in 2 math courses, one for Math 8 and one for Algebra 1. Our intention and goal is to pilot these prototypes across the 24-25 and 25-26 school years, engaging in robust analysis and data collection to ensure that the prototypes are living up to the guiding principles that Dr. Aguilera-Fort previously shared. I want to say most notably, this data tracking is meant to ensure that we live up to the equity components of our guidelines. Most notably, if we can go to the next one. So just to go into more detail around prototype number 1, this would be wherein 100% of students are enrolled in Algebra 1 in 8th grade, and those students who are demonstrating proficiency below grade level would also be enrolled in a Math 8 lab, similar to what we see currently at some of our schools with our accelerated math course. Prototype number 2 is the compression course that students would have the opportunity to be enrolled in 8th grade. If we can go to the next slide. Within this one of the components that we're going to talk about related to criteria is offering both an opt-out as well as the ability to opt in. So this would be a compression course where students would have the option to do either Math 8 in 8th grade or a Math 8 and Algebra 1 compression. Next slide. And then, as I said, prototype 3 is concurrent enrollment in Math 8 and Algebra 1 for students while in the 8th grade. Across all of these options, if we can go to the next slide, is for particularly for prototypes 2 and 3, providing students multiple criteria to enroll within these courses, considering the breadth of assessment data, of grades, and student family interest and commitment. The quick data analysis tells you of our current 7th grade students, the percentage that would be eligible based on a wide variety of criteria. We can go to the next slide. In particular, one of the things that we want to consider with prototypes 2 and 3 with the criteria is the opt-out, so that students would be automatically enrolled and have the ability to opt out, and students who are not automatically enrolled would have the ability to opt in. What we've seen from research and case studies in other districts is that these models of both an opt-out and an opt-in for interest increase equitable enrollment and decrease tracking by demographic factors within the accelerated pathways. And so we want to make sure that we are also tracking how these play out within SFUSD with regards to prototypes 2 and 3. The next slide with 21 and 22, just want to provide a brief overview of both our comprehensive middle schools and our K-8s and current math proficiency levels. So you can see that in comparison to the criteria and students meeting it shared in the previous slide. On slide 23, In addition to these 3 different prototypes, we would also like to offer up 2 additional options. One is support at the central level for an online Algebra 1 course starting in fall of 2024 for students who might want a different option than the 3 prototypes listed. And in addition, the ability to launch in 2025 a summer Algebra 1 intensive course similar to what the district currently offers with summer geometry that students would have the ability to take between their 8th and 9th grade years. One of the things that we want to most notably recognize is that with these prototypes, the prototype alone is not the measure of success, that these prototypes exist within a robust and interdependent system of student supports and student programming. The first piece on slide 25 is we want to name explicitly that we consider this prototyping part of our K-8 math curriculum adoption. All of the programs that we are evaluating not only provide within K-8, but Algebra 1 courses as well. And depending on the program, they also provide a robust array of Tier 2 and Tier 3 supports, as well as different compression courses based on individual programs. So we do anticipate that with these prototypes, teachers would be piloting materials that teachers across grades K through 8 and up to Math 8 would also be piloting. So they would have a shared high quality instructional set of materials to use within the prototype. On slide 26, we also, again, want to name that we are following the publisher guidelines for high quality instructional materials, offering the prototype alone. Again, it should exist within an interdependent web of supports, and those high quality instructional materials should ensure that students have adequate opportunities to demonstrate proficiency in all standards. On slide 27, as previously noted, we also would like to, in order to meet our goals of increased representation, expand high quality, high performing programs currently existing within the district, such as Black Star Rising. And in addition, on slide number 28, our intention is to increase the supports currently available within the system. One of those pieces would be within prototype number 1 around universal enrollment in Algebra 1, a Math 8 lab. As I said before, the district currently has a Tier 2 intervention course available at 2 middle schools referred to as Accelerated Math. We would like to expand this course into a Math 8 lab to support students in the All Insights to be successful if they're not currently demonstrating grade level proficiency, which would also thereby increase the number of math instructional minutes that students below grade level have. We also would like to expand high impact tutoring, which is inclusive of our digital platforms. IXL includes a high impact tutoring component. And in addition, we also want to name that for these to be successful, they have to have a designated time, place, and staff member within a student's day. And so our intention, as you can see, named in courses such as advisory, is there is a designated time, place, and staff member to deliver these additional supports within a student's instructional day. And I'm going to pass it to Dr. Wayne.
Thank you, Devin and Dr. Aguilera for it. And so the last 30 seconds, just highlight, this has been a really beneficial process just to look at overall at our practices. And we saw, again, not necessarily all students getting the same opportunity for math instruction each week. And you've heard me talk about how important those hours our students spend in the classroom. And so we're updating our expectations to make sure that all middle school students have 205 minutes per week, but then we'll be looking at it and see if we need to increase that more. We'll consider doing so. And then if you go to the next slide, with this, we'll also be adjusting our math placement policy. So I do want people to know for next year, we're going to continue with the same practice we started last year. And then we'll have a new placement policy for the board to consider for 25-26. And then slide 31 just showed some budget projections. I'll end on slide with slide 32, just the implementation timeline. If you go to the next slide, and again, this is a big shift. We're going to be having middle school teachers who haven't taught algebra in 10 years teaching algebra. So that's part of the reason why we're starting with the pilot, to make sure that we have the capacity to provide the support necessary for this to be successful and learn what's going to work. So we know people are eager for this change to happen, but we need to do so in a way that is supportive of our schools and our staff who will be implementing this. And so So the immediate next steps, if you go to the next slide, is the board approves this action. We'll be working to identify those pilot schools and do that very shortly. And then identify additional support for implementation. And then again, we're going to work with our middle schools about what math looks like across the board from the instructional schedule to the curriculum that we're using. So thank you, and we'll turn it back over to the board for questions and discussion and for action.
So first I'll ask for any clarifying questions. Go ahead, Commissioner.
There was a lot of great information in this presentation, so thank you very much. I think my clarifying question is, what exactly are we voting on?
So right now, current board policy and our instructional sequence has algebra being offered in the 9th grade, and it does not allow for algebra to be offered in the 8th grade. So if you approve the recommendation, we will be able to offer algebra in the 8th grade, and then the details show you how we'll start doing that.
So that's I still don't think there's enough details in the presentation to understand exactly what we're voting on. That's really like, I think we're all, I don't want to speak for everyone, but we've heard from so many community members that there is an appetite to do this and move forward and provide algebra in the 8th grade. There seem to be a lot of different recommendations and option 8 in here, and where are we? I mean, are we voting on, are we authorizing you to maybe do 1, 2, or 3? Are we authorizing one of them? I don't understand.
So, yeah, and I appreciate the question because we've talked about the role of the governance team. So what we need from you is the change in policy, right? Because there is a policy right now. If we went out and said, oh, next year we're going to offer algebra in the 8th grade, and we didn't have this conversation here, we'd be in violation of board policy. So that's why it's an actual vote. How we're going to do that is, ultimately staff operationalize it. And so we're showing how we're going to operationalize it through the pilots, through those prototypes, through adopting new curriculums, through more targeted support for underrepresented students. So those are all the how that's under our purview, but we wanted to give you an idea. If you give us, if you change policy, here's what that will actually look like in our schools.
Okay, I'm getting to the point of being obtuse here, so I apologize. Where's the verbiage of the board policy in here that we are revising? That's where.
Yeah. So can you bring up slide 4? And so that language actually is, I went back and looked at the 2014 board action. So it mirrors, it's the same kind of language the board took, but in that action, it talked about moving algebra to the 9th grade. This has it in the 8th grade.
So I'm sorry. We're revising a policy. So where's the revised version of the policy? I think is really my ask.
Yeah. So when you approve this, what you really were, you are approving, allowing us to offer it. And then it says it's reflected in the course catalog in our course sequence. So there's not like, so you're right, there's not a board policy. There's not like BP, 6,000 that says this, but the action of the board then determines what's in our course sequence, which is ultimately the policy that people go and look at.
Okay. Thank you.
There it is. Fine.
Yeah.
No, but I understand now what you're saying. There's not, so some policies live actually in the board policies, and then others live, you approve and authorize us to move forward with an action, and then it's how we do that is, in this case, it's like in the course catalog, right?
Right.
Commissioner, still clarifying, or are we comments and questions?
A clarifying question.
Okay, yeah.
And apologies if this should have been a question that I asked ahead of time. Thank you so much for all of the details. And I think it's, as we sort of want to model being able to acknowledge when things haven't worked and then make adjustments and pivot to do better by our students. So I had a clarifying question in terms of slide 23, where we understand that there are limited resources, right? And so the pilot and the piloting of the various prototypes will not be at every school. And so I see that in order to, I think, make sure that there is access for folks, even if they don't happen to be at one of the piloted schools. There's these two other options, online Algebra 1 and summer intensive course Algebra 1, so I guess my two questions are, is the idea that this is temporary while the pilot is underway until it can be rolled out, depending on what prototype works best everywhere? That's one question. And then the second question is, for the online Algebra 1 course, is this, and I hope this isn't getting in the weeds, but is it an idea that this would happen on campus? Or would you have to have access to internet and all of the things at home to engage? And then who would be, like, is it our normal, who is teaching this?
Thank you so much for that. I can start with the first overview. So as is noted, and I think I may have not spoken to it clearly enough, but on slide 15, of the 3 prototypes, our intention is to pilot them at 2 to 3 schools. And so, yes, to your point, that would not be 100% of schools currently offering grades 6 to 8. And so part of the intention is to ensure additional offerings for students who would not be at a school with one of those prototypes. In addition, I would just name that the availability and the sort of like scope of the prototype is also impacted by things like school size and enrollment size. If we think about the difference between a K-8 who might have 30 students per grade and another school who might have 300. So part of it is to ensure access. With regards to the online option in particular, that, as I sort of named before, our goal is to have a designated time, place, and staff member to support student completion of that. There are a variety of course offerings that offer Algebra 1. There's slightly different models depending on the provider. In some cases, the course is considered to be on demand, where there is a certificated instructional provider, not an SFUSD staff member, who responds and guides the course and provides students with a final transcript. An example of that might be something like a UC Scout program. There are other online programs that utilize a SFUSD staff member who would be guiding the course and grading coursework and things like that. So the intention is, one, to evaluate the efficacy and quality of those different products and the level of student outcomes. 2 is to make sure there's a designated staff member and a designated time and place to help the student through that course, should that be the option they're enrolled in.
Thank you. And I guess my hope would be that we are in regular conversation with our union partners about what that staffing looks like and who's doing that. Thank you.
This may fall under clarifying. I should have flagged it earlier as a question. On slide, I think it's 29, says all middle school students will have a minimum of 205, it was 33. It was 205 minutes of math, right? Yeah. So that's 41 minutes a day of math. So I'm wondering if that's more than what's currently happening. So how many minutes are middle schoolers getting in math a day now?
Yeah, so it varies. So here's what we saw. First of all, we have 2 different middle school schedules right now. Most of our schools have the 7-period day. And then, so at the schools that had a 7-period day, we saw there was a range from 180 to 205 minutes. And so we're making sure everybody has 205 minutes. The way that's done is 2 block periods on 2 days and then a single period on a regular day. So, and then at our 6-period days, they have about an average of some have some block periods as well too. So it ends up being more of an average of 50 minutes a day or 40, is that right? Yeah, 50 minutes a day. Though some of our 6-period days, schools have like a block schedule modified block schedule as well.
But currently we have students in middle school that are getting less than or fewer than 40 minutes a day on average of math.
Yeah. So right now we currently do,
which is very odd to me.
Yeah, so that's where there was, again, in the 7-period day schedule, there were different configurations and we wanted to standardize that. But you're right, less than 40 minutes a day of average is, we didn't feel like that was ideal.
Vice
Yeah,
President.
we'll note in those days, there are some students taking additional math for support, but yeah, overall, we want to have a clear baseline.
Vice President Alexander.
So this is just following up on Commissioner Sanchez's question, because in the responses to board questions, which are available to the public, right?
Yeah.
There's an interesting chart. So if members of the public want to see this, there was a question that one of my colleagues asked about if there was any correlation in student outcomes among schools with higher math instructional minutes and those with fewer minutes. And so there's a chart that staff provided in response to that question, which is really interesting. And I'm curious if superintendent or any staff want to comment on that. I mean, because to me, it looks like there's a correlation. I'm just curious, like, what's our thinking? And I mean, it looks like the highest outcomes actually are at schools that don't have 205 minutes, but actually the ones that have 230 and above. So I'm just,
Yeah.
and I
So
understand.
I'm going to
there's a lot
share
of
that. I see Dr. Connor here. She can come up if she needs to add more, but yeah, so that was a good question. So as you see on the slide, if you go back to the slide about math, that's why we want to analyze this, because we shared the data about the achievement and the time, but we weren't able in that quick of a time. We haven't established a correlation. Like that actually takes Dr. Khanna's level of expertise to do. But that's why we want to look at that's why we're saying, okay, let's get everybody to this level, but then we can do this analysis and see maybe that, maybe that is one of the factors that's a difference in achievement that we would have control over, that we would want to then change and standardize and have even more. But correct, we were not able to do a correlation analysis for this.
I mean, we can do a correlation analysis. The reason we presented you this data was to give you multiple points. So one was around performance and another was around growth or change. So, we wanted to present multiple indicators and how they relate to, and we even presented one more indicator, which is their color on the California dashboard. Right? So, looking at all three lenses, one where it's combined, one where it's just performance, one where it's just growth. So looking at all three lenses and how number of minutes either changes that or does not impact that. Okay. But if you want a correlation on each one of those, we'll be happy to provide that.
Well, no, my question was really more around staff's analysis of what are you seeing here, and how is that informing your thinking?
Yeah. Well, again, I think it informed us in changing what the minimum was. And then and this is also why we're piloting option 3, is that's the additional period, right? Because then we'll also see, like, we're going to be, that one, we're really going to be able to see the difference between kids who took algebra, just went straight into algebra because they met the criteria or showed interest, and kids who went and only had 1 period of it versus kids who had 2 periods of it. So I think we highlighted it in the recommendations in the presentation to say, we definitely need to look closely at that. I mean, we really do value the 7-period day, and that it provides other elective opportunities and provides other intervention opportunities where then kids don't need to miss an elective to take that. And so we wanted to make at least this first step of standardizing it at a level that does give over an average of 40 minutes per week. And then we'll look at and see, and that's why I wanted to be very clear, like by 26, 27, we might need to change our schedule at all of our middle schools that aren't up to the 230 or 40 minutes of math.
And just one last comment, which is we did do a clear red line to show you that 205 minutes that we've come up with in our recommendation was indicated by the schools that performed below the one, how they performed when it was below the 205 minutes, and how they performed when it became 206 minutes and above, right? So that's the reason we had the 2 sections that we showed you. And we have the recommendation of 205. Thank you.
Well, I'm looking around to see if anybody, I just want to acknowledge how much work has gone into this and also appreciate the honesty and the transparency with the data and thinking through the different options. I also understand as far as I've received a lot of questions about which school, which pilot. And I understand that you're working with the various middle schools to both assess like what's the current state of student proficiency, what's the current state of capacity and so forth. And so if you could talk a little bit about that, and then also how this dovetails with the overall curriculum pilot that's simultaneously taking place, because there's a lot of moving parts. So that's what I'd like some clarification on.
So there are three pieces that we are looking at right now in terms of the selection of the school sites. So one of those key components is we want to look at geographical locations. So we have diverse representation. That's number one. Easy. Number two, we are looking at the readiness level of the students based on the criteria that has been recommended. Based on that, then we look at different school sites and we approach those school sites and invite them to be part of this process so that we can pilot those in those schools. Number three, interest expressed by certain schools to collaborate and to be part of the process, whether because they believe this should be the approach or because they are proposing a different approach. So our intent is to really invite people to be part of this. And as we do that, there are schools that meet some of the criteria, and we are personally approaching the leaders and the staff of those schools, working with the assistant superintendent for middle schools, so we can have that inclination of the staff and of the leadership to be part of the process. So geographical location, based on data, readiness of a higher percentage of students, demographic representation in those ideas of geographical location, and definitely willingness and openness of the staff. Because as we are piloting, you also want to make sure that people somehow feel part of the process and not told that this is the process, which is a very delicate balance.
Regarding the curriculum adoption, just as a quick sort of reminder from the last time we were here for Goal 2, is that we are currently in the first stage of curriculum evaluation. So we started with 5 to 6 programs that all meet expectations on Ed Reports. Those programs also all include an Algebra 1 course as part of their K-8 offerings. In addition to the Algebra 1 course, some of them include various options of math compression courses. Some of them compress different grade levels. Some have a compression course, some have compression guidance of how you would compress their 2 standalone courses. So we're currently evaluating to bring that list of 5 to 6 options down to 3 to 4 that we're going to put before a site-based review committee this spring. That site-based review committee is going to evaluate them and help us select 2 programs, let's call them curriculum A and B, that we're going to pilot beginning in August. The piloting of those materials will be inclusive of the prototypes just listed. So for example, if I am at school XYZ and we're piloting curriculum A, we would be piloting curriculum A's Math 6, Math 7, and let's say Algebra 1 if we're an all-in school. So we will be piloting the same program, but varying courses of it.
Thank you.
Is this clarified?
I mean, I think we're now in, we're in questions. Yeah. Yeah, Commissioner Bogus.
Thank you. Definitely want to appreciate staff for all the work and intention that you put into the proposal. I think my comment initially, I guess a 2-part question, I think directed towards the superintendent. I feel like what I'm concerned about is, I guess, what I don't see in this, and wondering why there isn't an equity analysis that details what does it look like for our current students if we were already doing this for the different models. And that really makes me wonder, where is the targeted universalism and the plan and the approach? Where is the district's commitment to equity? Why weren't these questions at the forefront of this decision? And why aren't we centering the students that we are failing the most? And I don't see any of that in here. And I really wonder how the superintendent is directing staff in ways that are leaving these things out. And how is this reflective of our commitment to targeted universalism?
So again, if you can go to slide. Slide 28. Sorry, slide 27. So again, when the district 10 years ago changed its math policy, it was in part with the adoption of Common Core, but also wanting to make sure that more underrepresented students were in higher levels of mathematics. And when looking at the data from the last 10 years, we weren't successful in achieving that. Part of it is we see that our student outcomes didn't improve for our targeted groups. And and we're working towards our goals as well as our interim goals to improve student outcomes. But I think another thing that we see is, this is slide 27. Another thing that we are working towards, and what's on slide 27, is there's the preparing students to being ready, but also making sure that we're creating the aspiration and showing and helping our students understand that they belong in higher level mathematics, that they see themselves as mathematicians, as scientists, and as being prepared for college and career readiness. And so again, Black Star Rising is a program that we see is giving our Black students more confidence. And so that's one that we're wanting to expand. And we know there's other effective strategies and programs out there that we're looking towards to say, how do we make sure that we're getting students not just prepared, but also interested and engaged in and seeing themselves as mathematicians. So I think, besides just the general improvement plans, this is our targeted effort to say, if we're going to increase representation, it's going to need to be more than what we've done before, and taking some intentional actions in that area.
I appreciate the response. I think what I would say is I appreciate the intentions, but those aren't plans. And it doesn't make sense to me why we are playing guessing games when we're at such a critical time with our students' outcomes. So it's not necessarily about what we do or what we don't do, but it's how we prepare to do it. It doesn't seem to me that we've taken into consideration a lot of factors that affect a lot of students. And it doesn't seem that that is a commitment of you in this moment and bringing this forth. And it doesn't reflect, I think, what we as a board have directed you to do. In the way that you have approached it, because it isn't solving the majority of the issues that we're having as a district, but it does one specific thing that is the easiest thing to do to appease community and not center all of our students. And I think I'm really concerned that this doesn't do enough to show that and reflects a lack of understanding from you and what we need staff to produce for us to reach the goals that we have. And I think it's troubling. And I think it represents something that we need to see addressed. And I don't know if you have this information, you just didn't share it. You've done this analysis. You're aware of what the impact will be on our higher need populations. Because if not, are you really prepared to present this tonight? Are you really prepared for us to make a decision and give you a direction to follow? Because if not, you should let us know so we can give you the time to do this properly. We're at a very critical juncture as a district. There's a lot of things that are dependent on the decisions we make in the short term. And it doesn't seem like we've thought them out. It doesn't seem like we are showing leadership from a place of expertise, of being the place where we pay educational experts to solve these problems. And I don't see that in this. And I guess I don't need you to respond to that because you already responded to my first question, but I do just want to raise that concern to my fellow commissioners that we need to set a higher standard of what we accept and what we're seeing here. And that if they're going to bring a proposal to us as staff and they don't include information about our highest need students, we can assume that either they're not focused on them or that the data is so bad it is not worth showing and that we are hiding it. And so I would just caution us as we move forward in this, that we have a lot of clarity and a lot of understanding. And we set a really high standard for the superintendent and what he brings to us in the same way we want high standards for our educators and students and staff at our school sites. Thank you.
Commissioner Fisher.
I appreciate that, Commissioner Bogus. And that's part of why I was asking the clarifying question I was asking earlier about what exactly is the plan, right? Like what exactly are we voting on? I do have a lot of questions and I appreciate Dr. Aguilar for that you recognized earlier that this is a very compressed timeline. And so in talking to educators and parents, I think a lot of people feel that way, that this is very, very compressed. I've talked to multiple middle school teachers who feel a bit sidelined in this conversation. One told me that the middle school teacher conversation was 30 minutes. And that's not really enough to gather all the feedback. And they're the ones who are going to be implementing this in the front lines, right? So there are a lot of questions around, we have schools that don't even have credentialed math teachers. How are we going to pull this off? How are we paying for this? Who's going to staff it? We're spending all of our PD time on Dreambox right now. We're not even talking about what algebra PD would look like, right? So, CNI staff is, we don't know what the central office staff is going to look like next year. Who's going to actually implement this, right? There's all these questions that our educators have brought up to me. Our students going to have to give up, families are asking, is my student going to have to give up an elective period? And for our students who need acceleration, like my kiddo, if you would have asked him to say, hey, you need acceleration in math, you're going to give up your elective, that would be a reason why he would not want to go to school anymore. If he was forced into a second section of math, there's no way I could get him to go to school. No way. Just forcing him to do more of what he hates and what's hardest for him. Ugh. So, anyway, which breaks my heart because I love math so much. And, as we heard in public comment earlier, like, what are the trade-offs? We've got some numbers here at the back of the presentation. I'm going to try and find, the slide. Oh my gosh, I went past it. But we talked about resource allocation in one of the later slides. Are you committing these resources? I think for me, it's really hard to vote on saying yes to something when we don't. Are the numbers on the slide, are those what you're committing to? Like the FTEs that are on this slide, I'm still furiously trying to find it.
It's been, I think, 3 minutes. If
Okay.
there a specific, do you want to?
So yeah, it's hard for me to commit to a plan without having the resources behind it to make the plan successful, I think is really, and I see one slide that gives overarching themes, but I think for me, I really, really, really want to make sure that we do this successful. And having been a parent in this district, a very engaged parent in this district who sat on district level committees and seeing great plans with zero actual resources to implement behind the scenes, I want all of our kids to get to the point where they have all the math options open to them in high school. Are we committing to making sure that the millions of dollars that are listed in this presentation are actually going to be put behind these pilots and this math at the same time we're doing reading, we're doing new reading curriculum. Our teachers are saying this is a lot. So what are we doing to actually invest in this to make sure that it's done right? And are we taking the right time now to plan for it up front and not rushing it?
Yeah, so you were referring to slide 31, and this is what we, are anticipating are the needs to invest in this. I will note that for middle school, the good thing is the teachers who are teaching middle school are not, multi-subject teachers. So they're just teaching math. So they're not worrying about a language arts adoption. And we've heard from many teachers that the need to update our math curriculum. So that process was already in place and funding was set aside for that. So then you're seeing some of the additional costs for, to do the specific to implementing algebra, as well as to providing some of the other support for students to be able to be prepared for algebra and to be able to access it.
I have several questions, no surprise. Thank you to the team in the work. One question is related to, we've all acknowledged that middle school math the success of middle school math doesn't happen in middle school. So I'm curious if the team can share more about the strategy and the thinking about upper elementary math. And then I have a follow-up question around, was a prototype considered for acceleration for 6-7? Yeah, like in the upper elementary to 6-7 and the 7-8, and then you would have 8th grade algebra as an option. Just so if you could speak to some of those maybe other prototype considerations that didn't make it tonight. So I'll speak about the elementary work that we are planning right now, and Ms. Krupman will talk about the prototypes. So indeed, as I explained before, we are looking at what will happen in 5th, 4th, 3rd grade next school year. Because we are right now, as we speak, by the end of this spring semester, we will have a selection that will be piloted, recommendation to pilot some of those instructional materials in math. We are counting on those to be used as a framework to teach in 4th and 5th grade based on the standards and based on instructional materials that are tangible. Okay, that's one piece. The other piece is we named some of the specific interventions that we are committing to be implemented during this summer and by next school year so that we can revamp the kind of teaching that is taking place in 4th and 5th grade in math at the elementary level. So those are the initial commitments that we are making. As we do that, we are trying to work with the different vendors so that they can help us to provide accurate professional learning sessions for our staff. And one key component that I have not mentioned, which is the professional learning plan that includes math coaching in content areas for our elementary teachers. So that one is very specific. And we have been clear that we need people who are trained in the content and then can support our teachers into the teaching of the content at those grade levels.
For the question related to acceleration beginning in 6th grade, we did, and I believe this is in the appendix, investigate a number of districts, some of whom offer acceleration beginning in 6th, some in 7th grade, some in 8th grade. In the process of prototyping with our focus group, we did gather feedback on a prototype in particular that began acceleration in 6th grade. The feedback that we received from members of the focus group was that at this moment, in terms of where we are with student outcomes and where we are in the curriculum adoption process, they had concerns about beginning the acceleration in 6th grade. And I would say a specific part of that is concerns related to equitable representation within courses, particularly from the middle school principal lens. One of the things that they are very concerned about is inequitable representation within courses, not just within the math course enrollment, but how that can roll out into other courses within a student's schedule. For the prototype and for sort of like a year 1, year 2 iteration, for those reasons, they wanted to focus on 8th grade. But what I would say is that we do see data from other districts who have different prototypes that begin in 6th grade for acceleration that do have strong outcomes in terms of equitable representation and equitable outcomes for focal populations of students. So for us, it is not part of the current prototypes that we're proposing, but definitely something that we want to consider for the future based on our experience with curriculum adoption and the data collection around the prototypes.
So I would encourage, and thank you for sharing that. If we have seen promising practices in other districts, I certainly would want to, as we embark on this journey, to continue to have that be in the forefront as an option, particularly if we're seeing positive outcomes for focal populations. And just given the presentation tonight from Ali, and what we've learned through the audit around higher expectations of our students is the first foremost, as we all know, a factor that right now that we must overcome as a district. So thank you for that. My other comment and question is beyond, I think, this team here, but to the superintendent and to the district. Something that I want to really stress. And thank you to the OLLI team. I'm going to use a theme around the recommendations that link learning to home. So as we are rolling out this initiative, and I think a lot of the discussion, as it should be, is anchored of how we're working with our educators, how we're working with our site leaders. And this is a moment also imperative to be able to communicate with families around what their options are. Because as a parent, navigating this math sequencing has been very challenging and difficult. And it is left in inequities because the families that have the resources to be able to navigate this and seeing what options are available to their child or their children, I think has had the opposite effect. And so because of that, my encouragement is like we roll out like a PR campaign. I think sending emails, text messages, we have lots of studies we've done around family engagement that it is not a one size fits all. Families are going to have to hear things 10, 15, 20 times in order to even understand, what are my options. And I really appreciate the opting in, because I was a student that was tracked and not encouraged to go into higher math or higher English. And so that is going to be really important. Not only, I think oftentimes as a district, we want our students and our young people to have self-efficacy. And the reality is that a young person is going to need that extra support. So either it be that linked family learning or a mentor in their after school program. So I just really want to encourage that. And thinking about how as a district we're rolling this out is a full-on campaign, not just relying on family weekly notices. Sorry. Thank you, Lainey. So I'll wrap up there. So I'm getting impassioned.
You guys.
Sorry for.
I think a point well taken as we're moving forward with this.
So I was gonna go ahead and wrap us up. I think I think is broad agreement that, especially based upon what we saw with the TNTP studies, we know we need new curriculum. Our teachers know that we need new curriculum. Our families know that we need new curriculum. And we also need a different kind of approach to math overall for K through 12 coherence. And there's nervousness about implementation and our ability to implement, and especially given the many different pilots. I do want to echo the math sequencing as it is today is rough to navigate. Our kids would prefer to learn in school, not outside of the school days. And even those kids that are currently doing the workarounds, it's no fun to be staring at a computer screen and not have a cohort and not have a connection with a teacher. The other thing that I do want to emphasize, for me, this is all bundled. I am excited about moving forward. I mean, this is what deferred maintenance looks like. It's not, it's not glamorous. It's about taking the steps forward. And I appreciate the amount of thought that's gone into this. I do just want to hammer that there's a clear, at least in my mind, the 240 minutes of instruction, even with curriculum that's not standards-based, is resulting in better outcomes. So time on our core curriculum is really important. And also, I'm just going to flag advisory minutes and our use of advisory minutes to claw back instructional time and instructional support. Because I saw in the report, there's a range between 150 minutes and 60 minutes spent in our class or with our kids in our classrooms. And then lastly, just, around interventions. And I just look forward to hearing how things are going. And I appreciate, again, the honesty. So the things that are working well, I'd love to hear more about them. But if there's things that are coming up through this pilot that, missed the mark, let's acknowledge that too. So thank you for the work and bringing this forward. And with that, I have to find my script because I can't think independently anymore. Can I, oh, no, we already have a motion and a second. We do. So are we ready for a roll call vote? Okay. Judge, please roll call vote.
Thank you. Commissioner Bogus,
No.
Commissioner Fisher,
Yes.
Commissioner Lamb,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiseman Ward,
Yes.
Vice President Alexander,
Yes.
President Matomedy,
Yes.
6 ayes, passes.
On to our second and last action. Oh, thank you very much to staff. I appreciate it. Sweet dreams. Think of us. So we're on to action, or action item number 2, our last one, regarding San Francisco Unified School District Resolution 242-13 SP3, intent to initiate a transition from at-large to by trustee area board elections. May I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
At this time, I turn it over to our superintendent.
Thank you. And to provide a little bit more context, would like to introduce to our community our new general counsel, Rodney Moore. And if you can share what is being brought forward, that would be helpful.
Thank you. This evening, a resolution is being brought forward to respond to a demand letter that the district received related to the Civil Rights Voting Act. The demand letter calls for the district to move from at-large elections to the Board of Education to trustee area elections. The district has 45 days to respond to the demand letter. The resolution that was published with tonight's agenda offered a proposed resolution, and that was published on Friday. Since that time, Board Member Lisa Wiseman Ward has proposed amendments to the resolution that was posted on Friday. And we're going to ask that she go through that resolution, the amendments, or what you'll see posted is the amended resolution, and she'll explain the amendments that she's proposing. And at that point, I think the process will be to make a motion first to accept the amendments, and then a motion to accept or reject the resolution.
Make a motion to, would you like to make a motion to move the amendment forward?
I will make a motion to move the amendment.
Second.
Okay.
And would you like to introduce it or tell us about it?
Sure, I can. So the amendments have been published to board docs, but because it's probably hard to do a side by side, I'll walk through the proposed amendments that I am making. First one would be to move, whereas the board understands the importance of fair and accessible elections, to move that up a paragraph. The next is to add a new whereas the California Supreme Court issued a ruling last August 23rd, Pico Neighborhood Association versus City of Santa Monica, that clarified that by trustee elections are not the only remedy to cure a potential CVRA violation. An additional whereas it is prudent that the board explore other electoral system alternatives following the Supreme Court's Pico decision. A change to the next whereas that begins a large number of school districts. And the edits are to the second clause. The board believes that it is in the public's best interest to also begin the process to explore a transition from at-large to by trustee area elections, as well as other legal methods that were specifically named in the Supreme Court's Pico decision. The next whereas, it's a new one, whereas thereafter the board intends to adopt a by trustee area map for implementation in future elections, or another legal method that was specifically named in the Supreme Court's Pico decision. The following whereas that begins, whereas the board with the assistance of demographer would be amended so that after elections code 10010, it includes the language or to gather community input regarding another legal method that was specifically named in the Supreme Court's PICO decision. The second to last whereas that begins, whereas the adoption of by trustee area elections would include a phrase or another legal method that was specifically named in the Supreme Court's PICO decision. And then the rest of the amendments come to the recitals. So we would remove recital 3, which begins trustee area boundary line shall be developed. That would be stricken. The recital that begins the district shall commence the process of transitioning to by trustee area elections. New language would be or another legal method that was specifically named in the Supreme Court's PICO decision. There'd be a new recital that reads, it's recital number 4. If trustee area elections are determined to be the best course of action for SFUSD, then those boundary lines shall be developed based on the most updated federal decennial census data with the intent of implementing the boundaries for the 2024 election or as soon as permitted by law. The next and final amendment would be to recital number 5, and it would begin if trustee area elections are determined to be the best course of action for SFUSD, then staff is directed. So I believe that these amendments clarify what I think is our vision and our goals to make sure that we are, if there is any question about us not being CVRA compliant, which I think that certainly is not a settled thing yet, that if there's any question that we will make decisions as to how to make sure we are compliant again, if we aren't, I'm not saying that we aren't, but if we aren't, how we would make those decisions in a thoughtful way that gives us a number of different options that would be consistent with the Supreme Court's most recent rulings.
Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I think I would just say, I think this is a very fast-paced thing that is coming to us as a board, and I think it puts us, the public, and a lot of people watching in an awkward position where it doesn't seem like this is about necessarily doing what's best for kids. It definitely feels that way for me. But I definitely feel like that is what the state of California seems to tell us quite often, that there are a lot of things that are more important than kids in the classroom. And so I think it puts us in a really rough spot. I definitely appreciate the amendment, but I would ask my fellow commissioners to reject the amendment. I think we've pretty consistently, we have chosen not to go to court and enter litigation and to prioritize students because of the additional headache and burden that puts on us as a district. I think the original resolution as presented in the agenda does a better job of minimizing our fiscal liability around this issue. And given the fact that we are getting ready to experience reductions across our district, as well as trying to deal with a structural deficit of above $100 million, it's hard for me to take any steps that would potentially put funds away from the classroom, away from learning, away from having staff. And I would ask for you to join me in rejecting the amendment and doing what is the safest option for our district and for our students, and will allow us to keep our commitment to being grounded in student outcomes. And I think that's what I want to offer up. Thank you.
I appreciate those comments, but I also appreciate the amendment. A lot of work was done on that, and it reflects where I think we should head. The amendment.
Yeah, I want to say I also appreciate my colleague Commissioner Bogus's questions or concerns that he's raised and points that he's raised. And I have to admit, that's kind of where I've been on this as well, although I actually think Commissioner Weissman Ward's amendments do a really great job of still adhering to what I think is a safe approach, because we're making very clear that as it says, we intend to initiate a transition to something that is compliant with the CVRA. And so I think, and being very clear that we're using the law and the Supreme Court decision as our guide. So I think that's, in my view, I feel like we're on safe legal ground because of that clarity, that we're clear. We support voting rights. We support this California Voting Rights Act, and we support the Supreme Court of the State of California's interpretation of that act, and we're going to act in accordance with that in order to do what's right for San Francisco and for our students. So, but I agree, this is not something we would have chosen to take on, but I think the amended language, and thank you for your work on it and our attorneys as well, it puts us on a good path to making a decision and preserves the option of, as it says in there, considering carefully what the best way to comply with the law is.
Are we ready to take a roll call vote at this time? Any comment from council?
No additional comments.
Just to be clear, we're voting first on the amended resolution and then, or on the amendments, and then we'll vote on the amended resolution, correct?
Correct. So voting on the amended resolution first.
Yep.
Yeah, and see
Okay.
how that goes. Yeah, whether to
Accept the amendments.
the
Yep.
amended resolution, correct.
Accept the amendments to
Yes, to accept the amendments to the resolution. All right, for
Okay.
that, Mr. Steele,
Thank you. Commissioner Bogus,
No.
Commissioner Fisher,
Yes.
Commissioner Lamb,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiseman Ward,
Yes.
Vice President Alexander,
Yes.
President Matomedy,
yes,
6 ayes, it passes.
okay.
Now on the resolution as amended.
Pardon?
I vote on the resolution as amended.
Oh, so now,
Yes.
all right, okay. So now we're voting on the resolution as amended. I know it's my second business meeting, so here we go. Thank you. It takes a village. All right, so
Resolution is amended. Thank you, President Matomedy. Commissioner Bogus,
No.
Commissioner Fisher,
Yes.
Commissioner Lamb,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiseman Ward,
Yes.
Vice President Alexander,
Yes.
President Matomedy.
yes.
The resolution as amended passes with 6 ayes.
So now we move on to item H, Advisory Committee Reports and Appointments. We have a new appointment to the Independent Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. Dr. Wayne, will you introduce the item?
Yes, unfortunately, one of our committee members has moved off, and so we are appointing an alternate that had already gone through the process to be selected as an alternate, and that's so now we're just moving them to be an official member of the community, the committee.
Yes,
Me
this
too.
actually becomes an action item to accept the, so they'll take a motion in a second and then, to vote.
Motion a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Thank you. Commissioner Bogus,
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher,
Yes.
Commissioner Lamb,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Vice President Wiseman, or excuse me, Commissioner Wiseman Ward.
Former. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Vice President Alexander,
Yes.
President Matomedy,
Yes.
7 ayes, pass.
Thank you, President. So now moving on to consent calendar. Are there any items withdrawn or corrected by the superintendent?
No.
Okay, motion and a second on the consent calendar, please.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please, Mr. Steele.
Thank you. Commissioner Bogus,
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher,
Yes.
Commissioner Lamb,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiseman Ward,
Yes.
Vice President Alexander,
Yes.
President Matomedy,
Yes.
7 ayes, passes.
So now we're in the board member reports. Are there any reports from board delegates to membership organizations? Any other reports by board members? And I believe there is an advisory committee appointment.
I am appointing Sam Bass to the PFCAC. Welcome back.
So at this time, we have completed our board business. Yes, and the meeting is adjourned at 10.
We should just acknowledge,
We know, oh, but we usually talk.
we just read that they're
Oh,
attached there for.
I'm so, okay, all right. I'll read to you now. K information items. There's the quarterly report on Williams complaints posted. Attached to the, so yeah. And then 2, there's a mid-year report on the annual update to the local control accountability plan as well. But we are not discussing them. They're there for the public to see. So we are now adjourning at 10:30. 10:29. All right.